welcome back to Mage Knight. This time with a lot of the new aspects of the Apocalypse Dragon expansion, but I'm not playing a scenario of the new expansion box. But we will play with Coral, of course, with the new hero, and we will also use the active dummy variant, which means that we will face Wolfhawk, which I randomly determined as my dummy player. So she will also roam the map, take sides away from me, maybe remove some spells, some units from the offer. So very interesting stuff. We will also use all of the new tiles. So there's already one new tile visible, a countryside tile. There's two more countryside tiles in the box that we will also play with. And there's two more core tiles. I'm playing a solo conquest, which means that out of the 7 tiles, 3 are new from the countryside tiles. And there will be the 2 new core tiles together with the 2 regular cities, of course. We have to roll for the order of the tiles in which they appear, because as you can see, there's really no chance for me to not see what tiles are new and which are not. So when the next tile is revealed, we will have to roll between the 5 countryside tiles that come up next. Finally, we're also playing with quests, so this is the 4th new thing that we'll be seeing in the video. So Coral, the new tiles, the active dummy, and quests. As for the city levels, I haven't decided yet. Let's see how it goes. I'm trying to aim high, of course, but there's really no gain in fixing the city levels too early. As for Coral, that's the new character, of course, in the expansion. She has a new skill set, which we will see when we level up. And she, of course, has 2 new cards, which replace original ones. Quick-witted replaces a swiftness, so it also gives move 2 and range attack 3. But it's also a promise, so it can give influence 2 or influence 4 if powered. But the main new thing is that you put the card aside when you shuffle your deck, and whenever you would draw a card, you can instead draw this card, unless it's already in this card pile, of course. This is also why I have drawn only 4 cards so far, because we can decide to draw this card instead of a regular one. There's been quite a discussion on how powerful this is, and I do think especially the ability to draw it whenever it suits you is strong, of course, but I do think some of the discussion in the forum was blown completely out of proportion, to be honest. Sure, Mage Knight is a game about snowballing, and getting this together with concentration, for example, in the opening hand, I can just decide to draw that now. I will have the combo in hand. That's nice, but it's in no way a guarantee to snowball from there. As for the tiles, there are new mines, so there's a one with white and blue, and of course there's a corresponding one with red and green, which are deep mine combinations that we haven't seen before, and I don't have a 3D sculpture, of course, for this. There's an oasis, which allows you to recruit units as in a village. When you move away from an oasis, you will get 2 movement points because you are refreshed, and you can sell and buy gems at an oasis. And actually you can also buy healing for 3 influence, so selling a gem will give you 2 influence and buying one costs 4. And it has also a new feature, which is the ziggurat, and in the core tiles it will be a pyramid, which are somewhat like mazes and labyrinth. But the difference is that you can't use any units at all, and you have to first get past 1, 2, or 3 traps, depending on how deep you go. So it's not about movement points, but it's about how many traps you want to evade, or maybe just get damaged. But depending on how deep you go, you again get 2 crystals, a spell, or an artifact, and the pyramid will then give you also 2 crystals. The rest are details which we'll see when we enter them. I'm still using random tile orientation, of course, so this is why this tile was rotated twice, which means that there's actually a lake in my direction and a swamp, which makes it a bit unwieldy to get to all these nice new spaces. The dummy player, as said, will move around the map, and it will always have an active objective card, which will only get replaced once the objective is fulfilled. So we'll either try to conquer an adventure site, or a fortified site, or destroy a monastery, or to hire a unit or learn an advanced action offer in a monastery, or learn a spell in a mage tower. And again, there's lots more details to this, of course, which we will get to once it becomes relevant. And finally, there's the quest system, where we currently have 2 quests visible, and there will be up to 4 in a solo game as well as in a 2-player game. The first is the Fragments of Power, which gives you an artifact once you do it, but it has a lot of steps, of course, and you do need to invest something. This is also a point that was hotly discussed in the forums, where some people did not like the idea of quests because it might just give players who end up fulfilling the requirements just by chance, just an extra bonus. But this is not how these quests are designed. And I think this was quite obvious from the 2 quests we have seen from the demo game, or the unboxing, I can't remember really. But it was quite obvious that this is not about visit this, and once you have done that you get something, but you always have to do something. You have to fight something, you have to pay some influence, for example. I think this is actually quite a good example. You can start this quest at any inhabited site, so it's not about luck really to be able to start this, because inhabited sites are everywhere, like villages, keeps, mage towers, and so on. But you do have to spend an action there, so an interaction, which you might want to do anyway, but you have to pay for influence. So it's quite unlikely that you will also do something else. And for influence in the beginning of the game would net you the peasants or the scouts. So right from the get-go, you already have the opportunity cost to pay the influence just to start a quest instead of getting a unit. Then you have to defeat rampaging enemies. This is something you might do anyway. Then you have to defeat a brown enemy. Again, this is something you might want to do anyway, but it has to line up, of course. And finally, you have to visit a glade and pay a mana. Then you gain an artifact. So not only does the quest have to align with what you want to do, and you can't get too much out of your way with the usual snowballing, but you also have to pay for influence, a mana, and visit a glade that you might not have visited otherwise. So I do think this is quite interesting, and there were people who mentioned that quest will restrict the number of valid options. And again, I really disagree with this, because it does need extra stuff to do. So these options are just additional. It's not like there were 4 options and 2 align with quests that just give you extra stuff, and now these 2 are obviously better, so you lost 2. No, it's really that if you want to go for this, you can, but it will be an extra option, and you won't be able to do other stuff. So it really opens up the options spade. I think it makes it much more complicated, to be honest, but as Mage Knight players, we usually like that if it gets more brain burny. So quite an interesting quest, and just to point that out, we do have a village here, but it's in a swamp, so just getting there already takes 7 movement. So this is something that I will most likely not do in the beginning of the game. With a starting deck, just pay 7 movement just to get to a village, unless we want to hire. But if we do that, then we can't really start a quest because it costs for influence. But there would be an orc right away. So if we kill that, we would already have solved the second piece, or gotten the second piece of this artifact. The final piece would then require a brown enemy. And this is also where it gets, well, interesting, if there will be a brown enemy, because we are not sure of that. And there would actually be a glade to pay the mana and get the artifact. But as I've said already, doing all this investment without even having the brown enemy, this is probably not something I will try now. There will be room for 4 quests, and at the end of the round, the 2 to the right, so at the current time these 2 will be discarded. But whenever you finish a step of such a quest, the position of the quest will be refreshed to the leftmost, so it's unlikely to get discarded. Actually, it will not be discarded in the round if you work on it. The second quest is the Spell Thief, also quite interesting quest. As a preparation, when revealed, you are revealing a spell, and this time it was exposed, so really interesting for full conquest or solo conquest. And to get this quest going, you have to be at an inhabited site again, so could be the village, could be the keep, and you have to put the marker for the quest, so in this case it's the 8 marker because it's the 8th quest, away from your current position with these 2 conditions. So it has to be 3 revealed spaces away from your figure, so you have to move somewhere, and it has to be in range of an adventure site, so 1 or 2 revealed spaces away from an adventure site. So that's the first step. We could, for example, go to the village, but then we could not start the quest really, because there are no revealed spaces without anything else. So it must be on a safe space with no site that is both 3 revealed spaces away, and there are no revealed space without any site on them, which are exactly 3 revealed spaces away. Actually, there is here, but it also has to be 1 or 2 revealed spaces away from an adventure site. And the Oasis is not an adventure site, the Ziggurat would be, as is the altar, of course. So we could place it, if we are at the keep here, then it would be 2 spaces away, but it would be backtracking, of course. I think we have to reveal first and see from there if this makes sense to start. But in the end, you will, of course, get the spell. That's the idea here, that you have this Spell Thief that you are tracking down. So you have to start it, you have to go to this location, pay 2 influence. Again, you have to pay something that costs you at least a card, unless you have a skill that gives you influence every turn. And then you can place this marker on the adventure side or on one which is 2 revealed spaces away. And then you put an upside enemy token there, which depends on your level. So level 1 to 3 is gray, 4 to 6 is purple, 7 to 10 is white. So we would have to fight a gray enemy, which is really nice, especially since it's revealed, it's not fortified. So then we would go there, fight this enemy, and then we would get the spell. Again, this is not just something that you just do and get some additional stuff. Starting it does not cost you an action. That's nice. It's just, if you happen to be at a revealed space, you can do that. This quest is actually a quest that is not bound to a specific player. So if someone starts it, someone else can snatch it up. For solo, of course, this is irrelevant, and the dummy, even the active one, I think does not interact with the quest system. So if you start it, you can be sure that you can continue. So this is actually free, but this step again means that you have to do an action at the place where there's nothing else and pay to influence. So again, it's an action and to influence that you have to invest. Then you have to fight an enemy. That's normally good anyway because you get fame. But again, it will be the action of your turn. So even though you are at an adventure site, you cannot clear the adventure site too. So if you put it here, for example, we can clear the enemy, but then we cannot also clear the altar. It would be yet another turn. So in total, it's requiring 2 full actions and 2 influence, and of course fighting the enemy to then get a spell. And I think if you just compare that to taking a Mage Tower, for example, that's a lot of extra steps and stuff to do. So I do think from what I've seen so far, I like these quests because they are really options, but it's not like I want to go there anyway, I get extra stuff, so this is obviously good to take because you really have to pay something extra. There's no free bonuses being handed out here. So this is a quest that I would like to at least start in the first day because I do really like Expose. And if I start it, this will rotate back to the first position as said, and we will have a row of 4 quests. Whenever a player starts his turn, if there are no 4 quests lying there, so 2 plus the number of players, but also 4 in solo, there will be a quest revealed. So in our first turn there will actually be a 3rd quest, and in our second turn there will actually be a 4th quest being revealed. So we will see what's up with them. As you can see, this is probably nothing for the new player of Mage Knight because it makes it much more complex. Unless you don't want to optimize stuff anyway, then it's probably just fun to have. But for someone like me who really wants to strategize about things, this might make it quite brain-burny actually. And as I said already, I think it gives you more options because it means that you can go to some adventure site that's a bit like off-side to the map where you would normally not go because you get an additional thing. You can fight an additional enemy, get a spell, and then enter the adventure site anyway. This really ramps up the adventure sites in interestingness and it can give you more options of what to do. That's at least currently how I see it. Alright, so with the opening setup, I think it's fair to say that the easiest move is to just kill the orc, level, get a skill and advanced action card, and then continue planning from there. There's a lake and 2 swamps, so this is really unattractive to move through, although we do have enough movement, and since there's a mana of each color in the starting source, we could power whatever card we like basically, so we could even just power the improvisation for movement, toss the crystallize, but I do think the easiest opening move as always is to just kill orc, get a reputation, level, and then just take it from there. Which doesn't mean we are drawing quick-witted, because it does allow us to do a concentrated swiftness play, basically, for range deck 5. And for this we take the mana steal, so we are sure that we can actually power this, or this, because we do need to move 4 and then another mana for the concentration. So we are taking mana steal, and we will steal the blue die, because if the dummy rerolls this is really bad, because we can't recolor it or power stamina. So if he's now going before us and rerolling the green, we can at least power concentration still by recoloring the die. That's the idea here, but this would be our intended play, holding on to these cards. But we still have to figure out what the dummy plays and if he's really going before us, and if so, what his objective card will be. That should be enough shuffling. Let's see what the dummy is going for. And he's playing the right moment, so after us, this I think is lucky, but quite welcome. Which means that Coral is going before Wolfhawk. This brings us to our first turn, and the plan was already laid out, so we will use the blue die for stamina, movement 4. So Coral steps through the portal, and with 4 movement can approach the orc, summon us. And then with the green die we can power the concentration with quick-witted, which is our version of swiftness, so it allows range deck 3, which is range deck 5, and we just killed summoners before he can summon. That's the important part, giving us a reputation, token is defeated, and 4 fame, which of course makes us level. So very nice. The dummy did not have a chance to take this away from us. So these 2 dice will be re-rolled. We won't have any more benefit from the tactic, of course, unfortunately, but we will go first, and I think that's lucky enough. So let's see what the dice come up with. Comes up white and blue. Blue is really nice, unless the dummy re-rolls it, because we do have a crystallize here. So it's the end of turn 1, and we do level, and we will see the first 2 skills of Coral. Let's see what we get. The first choice is Shield Wall, which gives you a block 2 once per turn, which, to be honest, is exactly what you need to help with these traps. And if you block an enemy with Shield Wall, every other source of block that's at least 2, so sideways card out of the question, is increased by 1. Which means that for one enemy can really ramp up block quite quickly, but you can't just play sideways card for block 2 for each. So that's a solid defensive skill. And the other option is Commandeer Vessel, which gives us the permanent ability to enter lakes for a movement cost of 2. That sounds really good, so it's a movement skill of Coral. Once a turn you also get a movement point, and I do like these odd movement points. But there's also a flipping ability, which if you do, you can for the rest of the turn spend movement points to go from one coastline space to the next for 1 movement point each. The movement does not provoke rampaging enemies, and you always have to and your movement on a coastline space. You can reveal coastline tiles at a distance of 2 instead of 1, and you can later flip this back to use it again this round by paying 2 influence. So that's a bit more complicated skill, which essentially allows to travel by boat. So at a coastline, you pretty much ignore the movement cost because you can move with just 1 movement point. So we do think with all these enemies that are lining up, if we can get the altar and the keep, if Wolfhawk is not interested in this at least, we will need all the battle help that we can get, and 2 block, and maybe even 3 if we play another card for blocking, is appreciated. So this goes to the offer, as is one of Wolfhawk's skills, of course. And for the advanced offer, Ice Shield could be interesting, especially with the skill we just picked up. But Blood Ritual, since we have no crystals yet and the dummy can interfere with the mana source, I think it's far too valuable to pass on, especially since we have Crystallize as well. So we could make a turn where we just move into position, play the Blood Ritual anyway, to then crystallize 1 mana. If we power this, we will get 2 crystals and 1 mana to power something else like improvisation. So I do think picking this up, I won't regret that. So I do think we are picking up Blood Ritual. So let's see what Wolfhawk added to the offer, and it's Refreshing Bath, so a healing skill that gives you a crystal. That might be a good combination for Blood Ritual, to be honest, depending on what's in the last spot when we level up next. Very interesting skill. And the advanced action offer refreshes with Decompose, so another strong crystal skill. But that's it for the first turn then finally. So we draw up. There's the Blood Ritual, of course. Let's see what the other 2 cards are. There's a Promise, so if we also draw a Threaten, that would be so sad. And there's a Rage, so at least something that helps us in battle, and the Promise could actually be an option to discard with Improvisation. So it might actually not be bad to have a card that we can actually toss for Improvisation. But it's our hand then for the next turn. But Wolfhawk will now play, so let's see what her objective card is, and it's Crystallize, so blue. So we leave that card as her objective for the time being, and as usual we will reveal 2 more cards, which is white and red. And also as usual, depending on the color of her crystals and the card, we would reveal more cards, but there are none, so that's lucky. So she's just playing 3 cards, and she will target the closest of all of the above, which doesn't mean it's the village, because this is the only side in range 2. So Wolfhawk will step through the portal, and her movement will be +1, since it's not an advanced action or one of her unique basic actions. So it's just +1. 1 per shield on the objective card, which is a form of attrition. So if the dummy does not achieve his objective, he will always get at the beginning of the turn, if there's already an objective card, 1 more shield. But there is none currently. And +1 if there's a mana die of the same color as objective card in the source, which of course there is, unfortunately. So she does have a movement of 2, and she should move to the village right away, which does mean she can reach her objective. Let's reroll this first. Die comes up green, which in general is not that bad, but we don't have a green card. But again, if we can power this, I think we are fine with mana currently. So blue emulated white, which is an interaction action. So what Wolfhawk will do is she will be interacting, and this means discarding the lowest cost available unit, advanced action and unit offer, or spell that they have a matching crystal of, if she's in a tower, of course, or in a city where she can actually learn this. So she currently can only land blue and white spells, which are all the spells, of course. But in this case, it means she's recruiting, and she's recruiting the scouts or the peasants. And if there's a tie, I can choose. So I will give her the peasants, I think, because I usually find the scouts much more appealing. And the scouts I can actually hire in more places as well, so I will give her the peasants. Which does mean the objective card is now discarded. And I think I will put it in the original position so we are not getting confused with the colors here. And she already achieved her first objective. But let's turn 1 then for Wolfhawk, and we are getting to our second turn. So with the Promise, we will use Improvisation for movement 3. We will not power it, because we can then use a red source die to crystallize, picking up a red crystal. So we are sure we can use Blood Ritual and get all the mana we want and any crystal we want. But we are not casting it now to not have the Wound Clock up our hand. This already plays us 3 cards. The movement 3 at day will get us into this forest here, to this altar. And depending on what we draw, we might actually want to take a stab at that altar. At least we have a rage and some block and all the mana we want. So if we are drawing 3 cards where there's anything like the second rage, which I think is Coral's replacement card, so it's an upgrade card, and or determination, swiftness, stuff like this, then we will probably take a stab at the altar. And we also see the defenders now, but we will not go there now because we do not have more movement, because we did not power this. But I think playing 3 cards is fine at that point. So let's see what the defenders are actually. So they are thugs, which offset the reputation loss, but it will not make us +1. And suddenly the Ice Shield would be a perfect card. It would just block them, and if powered, it would reduce their armor to 2. So the Rage would just kill it. Yeah, what can you do? But that's it then. That's 3 cards played. Die comes up black, unfortunately. Let's see what we draw. There's a Tranquility. It's not a worst pull for the wound, but it doesn't help in the battle. A Determination, it's nice, but it's not firepower. And a mana draw. That's a bit unfortunate because we do have all the mana we want anyway. So maybe we are just using this to heal wounds we get from the battle. But we do have too much block and not enough attack, unfortunately. But it's our first turn, so let's see what Wolfhawk is doing. She gets a new objective card, which is red. It's a regular one. Red means that she is going for an unconquered fortified site or an undestroyed monastery. So she will go for the keep, and I think the way is clear. That's D3 here. And the movement will just be 1 because it's not a special card, not advanced action or a unique basic action. There's no shield on it, and there's no mana die of the matching color. So I do think she's just moving 1 space out of the village towards the keep. But of course we should also reveal more cards. So another white and another red. So these are the 3 then. And she does not have red crystals. So again, we are lucky that she will have a very short turn. We moved her already. But next turn she will get a shield, which means even if there's no matching die, then she will reach the keep and conquer it. So if we want to prevent that, we would have to go there first. And just to point it out, if we take the keep now, there's no other unfortified site left. So she will actually explore. So she will go for the shortest path and then explore a tile for us. But if we vacate the space, she will actually go there, explore, and then she will be sitting on an adventure site. So on blue and on green, I guess, she will then just take the altar. But it should be her second turn, so we are moving on to our third. So we are in a little bit of trouble with the altar, since we do not have that much attack, but we do not have any movement, so we can't even move away unless we play 2 cards sideways, which is quite a waste. So this is why we decide to try the altar. But with just the Rage and Determination, it's maximum of 6 damage, with a sideways card 7, and that would not leave us with that much block, even though we have 2 here. So we really want to see 2 more cards. And since we want to spare the crystal, we use the mana draw to pull a white die, to fix the black to red, getting 2 tokens, playing the Blood Ritual, gaining a wound, gaining 3 tokens, a green, a white, and a gold. The white we will crystallize right away, because we do need to do that right away, which does mean we can power the Rage later if we want to. We can power the Determination or anything else because it's a wild card, and these 2 cards are of course not played, but we do have a wound that we will not be able to heal. So we will now draw 2 cards before the battle. And the first card is Tempered Steel, so I think it's the Rage replacement. So it's the second core card, of course, of her non-standard cards, which gives you 1 more attack or block point compared to Rage if you block and attack. So it's either block 2 and then an attack 1, or it's a block 1 and an attack 2. So unpowered is just 3 if you block and attack. And if you know my videos, you know that I do like this a lot, because these odd points more often than not save you a mana or a card. The powered effect is attack 4, like Rage, or 6 if the enemy targeted by this attack has any resistances, which is nice if they are fire or ice resistant, because it's just attack 6 then, but against a physical resistant enemy it will still be a net attack of 3 at least, or it gives you block 4, which of course is not possible with a regular Rage to get block at all, and it will be block 6 against an enemy that's swift. Again, which is like a physical resistance, so you need double the block amount anyway, so it will net you a block 3. But I do like this, because this means that we now have a lot more firepower, and with any luck we can defeat both tokens. But we might get a lot of wounds. And we can actually power this to block, and then take a crystal for Tempered Steel, so this gives us a lot of block. But we have no idea what the tokens are, and I think at that point we really want to engage. So Coral enters the ruins, and we will draw a keep enemy and a mage tower enemy. So let's see what we are facing. The keep enemy are crossbowmen. Okay, so they do have a swift attack, but are really easy to kill. And illusionists. This is a bit harder, of course, because they're physical resistant and they will summon something. But we do have a determination and a blocking skill, so maybe it works out okay. And at that point, I don't think there's anything to think about, because there is no range attack whatsoever. So we will enter the block and assign phase. So we do need to summon and see what comes up. And the illusionist will summon a Hydra. That's so bad. Why am I pulling these tokens? So the Hydra is of course an unlucky pull. And since we can kill both tokens with the Rage, with the mana from the mana draw, and the Tempered Steel with the gold mana from the Blood Ritual, we'll have attack 4 against this and attack 6 because they have a resistance against this, inefficient, but it will kill them. But before that we do have to deal with these up to 5 wounds. And the idea is that we can block 2, one with the skill, one with determination, without even powering it. We could instead block this if we power the determination, but it would just prevent 2 wounds as well, so we end up getting 3 wounds nevertheless, so we can just save the crystals. So that will be 3 wounds in addition to our 1. We will not be knocked out. The Hydra will just vanish, of course, but we will kill these 2. That's 7 fame. Brings us to 11 and will make us level, which is our 3rd armor point in a 2nd command slot. This was turned red from mana draw. This will be re-rolled. Comes up green as well. These tokens were used. The crystal is here. These tokens are from the mana draw. We've used our skill. This was all used before combat, and this was used within the combat. Which does mean we conquered this altar. So we are marking this with our shield. And then we will, at the end of turn, get combat rewards, which is a unit. There are no gold units, of course. So we can take the thugs, the scouts, or the crossbowmen. It is a tough decision. The scouts would mean that we could reveal one of the tiles that are further away. We would have the movement to definitely reach the glade. But the crossbowmen overall are just a level 2 unit. They have ranged attack. We do have a crystal swiftness coming up. If the card order is in our favor, that would be so nice. So that's our reward. We still have the 4 wounds, of course. We did our level up, so we will draw 1 card. Let's see what it is. And it's a March. It's extremely lucky. That's exactly what we need because we have 2 green die, so there will be at least 1 available. And we can power this move to the glade, heal 1 of the wounds, and then have the other cards for the last turns of the day because the dummy is not really speeding. This was just our 3rd turn. Actually, I did realize that I already screwed up the questing system. I could not start any of those because I would need an inhabited site and I never visited one yet. But at the start of each of my turns, we should have laid out another quest. So since we are already in the 3rd turn, it should be 4 quests already. So let's see what we get. So the Goblin Warrants. For this quest, we need hills with movement cost 3 with no sight. So we put the marker 6 on it. So this one. And we choose a number between 1 and 3 and roll a mana die. Add 1 to your chosen number if you roll red or green, 2 if you roll black. Fight that number of goblins. Each goblin has a separate enemy of armor 1 and attack 1 and is worth 1 fame. If you feed them all, you finish this first step of the quest. You can then open a mine. A player may only complete this step if all players have completed step 1. You can then pay influence 4, flip the token. Wow, so this is actually a deep mine with all colors. So you can turn a hillside into a deep mine with all the colors, but you will have to defeat a lot of goblins. So seeing that they have armor 1 and attack 1, you might want to get more fame by choosing more goblins, but the attacks are again the annoying part because you would have to block them separately. We can block 1 for free, of course, but yeah, the other attacks will be really annoying. So I do think I would probably choose 1, and it might be increased by 1 with a 1 in 3 chance and a 1 in 6 chance it increased by 2. So it is really trivial actually to do. The problem with opening a mine irregularly is that a player may only complete a step if all players have completed step 1. So it's one of the quests which is independent. So it has all the player colors here. I think in a solo game this means I have to just do this, which means that I can just go to the hillside, fight this and then have this mine. And again, it might sound strong, because in solo I can just go there, fight 1 enemy if I roll lucky, and then have a deep mine, but it's not it. I have to pay the influence again. So this will not take many actions, because I can just move to any hills, fight them, immediately do this. You can complete more than 1 step in a turn, and it doesn't say as an action, but it does also cost 4 influence. So you will pay some resources for the attack, either block it or get a wound. Well, the block at least for me is trivial, and 1 card sideways will just kill them, but it's some resources. And you have to pay for influence, which I don't have currently. Then you get this mine. And currently we don't even have hillsides. That's probably the biggest problem with this quest. Nevertheless, we put it here and we will pull 1 more because there's a limit of 4. So in my 2nd turn, and we are only 3rd, I should have revealed this. That's Guard Duty, which is a personal quest like the Fragments of Power, which gives you an artifact, which means that you can only have 1 of them active at a time. And if you want to start another one, you have to abandon your current one. So the idea is that you are guarding a merchant. So whenever you get into any battle, you will have to pay block 2 or the quest automatically fails. So again, it does not mean you just travel with the merchant, but you also, if you fight, you have to defend him. So that costs resources. Of course, for me, this is perfect because I do have the block 2. So I can just spend this every fight to guard the merchant. To take it, you have to pick him up at any inhabited site. So you have to interact there to pick him up. That's the first step. And you can drop in at any other inhabited site except the one where you actually put the marker from the quest. And then it depends on the distance what you get. So if it's just 1 to 3 spaces away, you get a random crystal. If it's 4 to 6, you get 2 random crystals. If it's 7 or more, you get 2 mana crystals of your choice. So 7 or more is quite a long distance. So either don't have to fight, or if you do fight, which is quite a restriction, if you want to travel far, you really have to spend some extra resources. Unless you're of course lucky and the inhabited sites are right next to each other, then you would get a random crystal. But you do have to interact first and then drop him off at the other inhabited site. So currently I could not have taken either of those, so that's nice. So we didn't do anything too wrong here. And that's really the third turn. I've just drawn this and was lucky. And now we see what the dummy does with his third turn. Since he already has an objective card, we just reveal 3 cards. So it's blue, green, and green. Again, not a color of any of his crystals. So another short turn. But since he did have an objective card, he does get a shield. So the movement is now 1, 2, and with the red die 3. And I don't think this is optional, even though he doesn't need the movement. We will reroll the red, and it does deplete to black, unfortunately. But with 3 movement, he can definitely reach the keep, which does just mean that he will kill the defenders, and the keep is now conquered by him. And we are discarding the objective card, so we will again move it here at the beginning of the second turn where he did pick up a new objective, and that's his third turn. Which brings us to our fourth turn, and I do think it's clear what we do. We do power the march to get into position to interact with these next countryside tiles, hoping the dummy will reveal one. And we do need 3 movement to get here, so we can't reveal anything now. But the nice thing is that 1 wound will be discarded at the end of turn. The march is played, so we will draw 2 of our remaining 4 cards. This will be rerolled. Comes up white. So let's see what we get here. There's the swiftness. So we are prepared for range deck 5 now. And a march to travel, and we still have a green die unless the dummy is removing it. Let's also not forget that we do get a gold token from the glade. But unfortunately that's our 4th turn already. We do need to recoup a bit. So let's see what the dummy does. The first card is again the objective, which is white. So we will reroll one of those. Comes up blue, which does mean his movement is 1 for a regular card, no shield, but a white die, so it's 2. And white means he will be interacting, and he's already at the keep. So he will recruit the scouts because they are hireable at the keep. I do think the unit must be hireable there. Yes, so it's the lowest fame cost of a unit that's actually available, but the scouts are available everywhere, so he will get rid of them. Which does mean the card is already discarded, but I should have again revealed more cards first. There's another white and a red, and the streak continues. So it's another turn with only 3 cards. So he has played only 12 so far. So there's still 4 in the deck. And we have seen all the white cards already, but we have not seen the blues. So there's 2 blue, which means it's a coin toss if he will exhaust his deck or not. But Wolfhawk was quite busy hiring here, moving 2 turns to conquer the keep and then hiring again. So I like that so far. That's quite an interesting dummy, but she did not reveal, unfortunately. Which brings us to our 5th turn, which I do think means that we will reveal now. And we will start here. So if we want to move into this, we will still have movement points left. And Wolfhawk can then reveal this tile for us. So we don't need to spend the movement. Unless this is really uninteresting, then we will remove this as well. And I do think we will keep this token and reroll the green die. So we will have the white left if we need it. It won't matter too much because we will, if we stay here, get another gold. But I do think I want to get rid of this. I don't think I have another green card in the deck anyway. So let's just get movement 4 and then reveal this tile first. And as said, we have to roll between all these tiles. So let's mark all of them with a different color. And let's make this gold and black we just reroll. Let's take the black die from the source. And it comes up golden. So this is the tile we reveal. So we're moving the other tile here and roll the rose. Comes up blue, so it's a rotation by 1 click. And it's a keep, mountain, monster den, and an altar. And it's rotated away from us. So there's a mountain in the middle. The altar is 2 green tokens for a set of crystals. A keep with unknown defenders and a monster den. So I just realized that by revealing this, Wolfhawk will now not reveal another tile because she has all the targets she wants, so she can interact. She has an adventure site, she has an unfortified site. There's actually more adventure sites here, so she'll probably go there instead of here. But I do have to reveal it myself, and I do want to stay on the glade to heal more. And going for the altar, I can't defeat that, of course. So let's see what we get with the next tile. But we again have to roll for this. So let's take the black die and see what comes up. I had to roll twice, but it's green, so it's this tile. Let's replace the black die, of course. So this time is one of the new ones. Let's see what the rose comes up with. It's white, so again one click, but in the other direction. Let's see what we have. So there are rampaging enemies, but I think they are rotated away from me, so that's a bit sad. But there's another glade, so we could move on at least. So this would be the regular orientation, and this is the rotated one. So the tile also has a mountain in the middle, interesting. There's a village right next to us, where we could actually spend influence to heal. That might be interesting. There's a glade right next to us, so we could at least move there to heal more. There are trackers that are a bit harder to kill, but again, they're elusive, and the block might actually be handy in this, because it brings down the armor to 3. And there's the second cigarette, where the block also might come in handy. So we've used all of our movement. This is then re-rolled, this is played, and since we do regenerate another of our wounds at the end of turn, we will see the rest of our deck. So we will again start the next turn with a gold token. Let's reroll this. Comes up blue. If we did not miscalculate, this should be a threat and a stamina, which is correct. So there was no rush to leave. And let's see if Wolfhawk is actually picking up the thugs or not, because this could be something for the last turn that we actually have 2 units then. So this was our 5th turn. Wolfhawk will get a new objective card, which is blue. That's a bit unfortunate because it means she will do whatever is closest. And since she's still sitting on a keep, and the thugs can be higher than a keep, she will eliminate them. But one blue card means that the likelihood of her exhausting deck is quite low now. And since we pulled another blue, it's impossible now. So she ends with the green, and there's 1 card left then. Let's make some space here. So she will give us more turns. So our 6th and our 7th, in her 6th she will exhaust the deck, and in her 7th she will call the end of round. But it gives us 2 more turns, and we are not playing Volca, so this was the last scenario I played. So I'm a bit in a different mode now. This is already taken care of, by the way, because she did just hire right away. But we did play 5 turns without hitting one of her crystals, so it's extremely lucky. And since we went first, we will have 2 more turns, so 7 turns in the first round. So let's play our 6th turn. So we don't have that many cards left, unfortunately. And we do really want to get into a quest, because there is a nice spell exposed that we could get. If we refresh this quest, we don't have to do it now, which means that we probably power stamina and play a threaten sideways. So we have 5 movement points. Coral moves to the village and then starts the quest Spell Thief. Check for clues, any inhabited site. Place the marker on a safe space with no site that is both 3 reveal spaces from your figure and 1 or 2 reveal spaces from an adventure site. So there are not that many spaces that qualify for this, but this one does. So in the wasteland here, we will place the clue, which does mean we have finished the first step of one of our quests. And we mark this by an additional token from the expansion on the same fame track. This is later used for scoring at the end of the game. If you want to do that, there's another achievement for the greatest quester, where you get a fame for each step. So I'm doing this to calculate score later. And if you do winners per category, there would also be a new category where you get 3 fame for the winner. Which means that Coral now has 1 step of a quest finished. It's really just additional fame at the end of the game. It doesn't do much, but I do think it's fair that if you spend resources on this instead of doing something regular, then this should be compensated in fame. So I think it's fair game to honor this at the end of the game in the score. By solving the step, we will place a shield token on this, and the quest will be refreshed. So in the order, it will move to the front. So the spell goes here, and these markers are from these quests. Since this is a collective quest, technically it's not actually my shield token, but it's a neutral one, because anyone can now continue with this. It would be, in a competitive game, quite a risk, I would say. But again, I don't think currently that a dummy will interact with the quest in any way. And since this does not require interaction or any action, Cora will use the remaining 3 movement points to go to this glade now, which does at the end of turn heal another wound. So this will all be played, and since we are on another glade now, we will have another mana token. I don't think it matters. And Wolfhawk will now reveal the last card, which is green. I should have known that, which is a new objective. So she will move to the closest unconquered adventure site. And I do fear that's this cigarette, because this is already conquered. There are no adventure sites. This doesn't count, I think. And then we are already in range 2. There's the cigarette, and that's really it, unfortunately. So she will try and move here, but she will then announce the end of round. So if she's not reaching it now, she will change objective at the start of the next round. That might be our saving grace here. So no other cards are revealed. She exhausts the deck. It's a standard card, so it's +1 movement. There are no green dice in the source that she could use, so it stays at 1. So she will move towards the cigarette, and since both are equally close, I will move her here, so she's not blocking my way. So that was her 6th turn. We get now to our 7th, and I think I will just stay here, heal the wound, 2 movement doesn't get me anywhere besides the keep, but I can't really defeat an unknown gray token with just 3 attack. It's really unrealistic. So let's just heal this. Wolfhawk will then announce the end of round because her deck is empty. She will not continue. And it's the end of the first day. Really interesting. So let's get rid of all this. As said multiple times, I leveled twice. I'm 4 fame away from leveling again. I have only 1 unit because Wolfhawk snatched up the last unit I could have hired in the village. But I did start a quest that brings me closer to his spell. So I only need to move here. Probably have to take the keep then. And then also want to do the cigarette unless she's picking up a green or blue card again. But if it's a blue, actually she can hire at her keep. So she might move away. So it will be quite interesting with what she starts. But we can also reveal this tile. If with any luck there's an adventure site, we can also move the final step of the quest to this tile. So there's lots of options, I think. Let's see where we go from here. But that's it for the first day. The tactics are removed from the game as usual. As for the cards, unfortunately I could not prevent her getting a blue crystal and a blue card. So we will add this card to her collection. This will be discarded. So now she has 1 more blue card and 2 blue crystals. That's not ideal. And blue is also a wild card, which means that she will, or any character for that matter, will always go for the closest stuff. But blue does not move a character closer to the portal. I hope I didn't screw that up, but I do think blue for now was only hiring and she was always standing there and could hire right away. So blue is a wild, but it does not backtrack. So this is something that you really have to keep in mind. She will progress, so which means that if she's far away from the portal, she will rather reveal a new tile than backtrack to the portal. So in this sense, maybe this was backtracking already, but I do think it only counts for blue. Yeah, I think from the rules, I don't see why she wouldn't be possible to move closer to the portal. This was my choice. So we are shuffling the dummy deck, and usually I'm playing with control over the offers, but I do think with the active dummy player, at least the spell offer, I should not refresh because the dummy is capable of picking up spells, and that was part of the reason why I do like this variant, because you do see more as in single player. And the dummy player usually does not remove more cards than would be removed anyway by cleanup. But if the dummy is capable of removing spells, I do think I do not want to give me an additional option to cycle through the spells. It would be even faster, even though there's currently no way to pick up spells, of course, but that's my problem. It's not the problem of the system. So I am not using control of the offers to get rid of chill, which does mean I'm restricting myself to the advanced action offer and can now think about if I want to remove Song of Wind or if this is something that I would like to pick up. Song of Wind, of course, doesn't help with forests, and I cannot move through the keep right away, even though it's plains, but I would have to assault it because it's not mine. I'm not sure it's the best movement card. I think I'd rather see more advanced actions. And for the dummy colors, it's also, if I don't pick it up, much better if it's a red card, not a white one. The advanced action offer refreshes with Mana Storm, which is not good because I already have an advanced action that gives you a lot of mana, Blood Ritual. But Start Resolve is quite interesting because it can manage the wounds I'm getting from this, and it's a quite flexible card. And the spell offer refreshes with Offering Sacrifice again, which also for the City Assault is a nice card because it can produce 12 siege attack of fire or cold, but it's a lot of commitment. I think I'd rather have a Firestorm or a Blizzard, but what can you do? Without control over the offers, if the dummy does not replace spells, I will now feed 2 blue spells into him if I'm not picking them up, which is not optimal. The unit was not spent. The skill is nothing that we need to unspend. Let's see what the unit offer is, because if we are taking the keep right away, that might be an opportunity to fill the second slot. Utem Swordsman, Guardian Golems, and that's nice. Some Herbalists, and Utem Guardsman, also nice, and both can be higher than keep, so the Guardian Golems and the Utem Guardsman. The source starts really badly with a black die, 1 depleted, a green and a blue, but half of them are basic colors, so what can you do? We do have to toss the last 2 quests, so these are moved to the right then. Let's just put the spell under it, and these will now be refreshed at the start of the player's turns. And I think in solo it's just my turns, so they are not repopulated right away. So I do think we just shuffle my deck and then we are ready to go. Of course we have to take out Quick-Witted. So here it is. So this is something like a unit that you can use whenever you like, if you would draw. And besides that, we did not pick up too much, I think. So it's really just a Blood Ritual. So maybe we are a bit slow, to be honest. Let's move that a little bit to the side to not get too confused. And this is our deck. And we draw 4 cards currently, because we can draw Quick-Witted as the 5th. So there's Tempered Steel, Stamina, Rage, and a Swiftness, which I think is nice if I want to take the keep, which means that we should think about tactics now. So looking at the source, we really want to have the option to reroll. So this is why we are taking Mana Search. We don't want to take one of these. These are good for later knights, this is also not useful. So we go with this. And if Wolfhawk now goes early, I think it's fair game and we at least know what she's up to. We're also not drawing quick-witted because we already have swiftness. So we are drawing our 5th card, which is concentration. It's funny. We could have done this before selecting the tactic, of course. And actually, we do have to do this if the tactic does anything to our deck, like preparation, and we would have to decide it earlier anyway. But let's see what the dummy does. And the dummy goes for Sparring Power. That hurts a bit. There's a lot of firepower gone for the last knight or the second one, but at least she's going after us. Which does mean Coral is still before Wolfhawk, and we are on our first turn. Let's move that to the deck as a reminder that we can draw that, but we don't have it yet, of course. And we can think about what to do with this. So we are trying to take the keep by moving with the swiftness, just 2 movement, and the keep is in the plains. It is an assault, unfortunately, so we lose a reputation and we draw the defenders. And the keep from Wolfhawk is defended by Utem Guardsman. So 3 attack is easy to block with Tempered Steel and our skill. So the shield wall, it's 2, Tempered Steel is 1, it's 3, blocks the unit. And then we get an attack of 2, so 5 is missing. That's 2, 3 is missing, and then we use the crossbowman. That kills them, and we get half the fame rounded up, so only 2, unfortunately. But it does mean that we take over the keep from Wolfhawk, and now our hand limit is 6. And we are really close to having an even further increased hand limit. Skill is used, all these are used, but we are holding on to stamina and concentration, which is quite important. So at the end of the turn we are drawing. We are not drawing this right away, of course. So there's a march, more movement, and a determination. So we can't justify drawing this now, so we are drawing our 6th card regularly, which is stamina, so even more movement. I'm not sure I like this, but it's our first turn, so let's see what the dummy does. First he gets a new objective card, which is green. That's really bad. So she will go for an Unconquered Adventure site, which is the cigarette. Actually, she does not take it away from us, because it's just, in quotes, the easiest path she will take. So we will put a shield on the 1, which is nothing we're interested in anyway, so that might actually not be the worst case here. But she would reveal more cards, of course. So there's a red and there's a blue. So we are out of luck with the knight finally. So 2 more, which is another blue. That's good. And it's a special card, unique card of her. And a white, again a special card. So that's actually good. But it was 5 cards for the first turn. And she did fulfill her objective right away, which brings us to our second turn. So we messed up by drawing a green card. She would have rerolled a green even though she didn't need the die to reach the target. And the die does come up black, so that's really bad. But I also screwed up that I did not think about Mana Search, which does mean at the beginning of my turn I do reroll one of the blacks and one of the golds. That's actually quite good. So let's see what comes up. So blue and gold, which fortunately means that our planning doesn't change much. We also did not reveal a quest. We should have revealed a quest in our first turn and in our second. So let's reveal the next quest, which is the Fog. Skip range and siege attack phase during all combats on this quest card. Then in a village on a coastal space, block or prevent 2 psychic damage or assign damage from it as in combat. Then spectral monster, fight a brown enemy token as your action this turn. They may not be attacked or defeated, but will attack you. Then place the top possessed enemy token from the stack on this card and place the brown enemy token on it. It is now an Apocalypse possessed enemy. The monster reveals itself. Fight the Apocalypse possessed enemy on this card as your action this turn. If you defeat them, gain an artifact and solve the quest. So you have to initiate this by getting damage, then get beaten by an enemy, which you can't defeat. This needs to be an action of the turn, and then you have to defeat the token possessed, and then you get an artifact. That's actually not bad, to be honest, but it would need a village on a coastal space, which would be this one. And the 4th quest is a mysterious island. So it needs to be in a safe space adjacent to a lake, which we have here. That's nice. You may travel to this island as your action this turn, choose 1 unit. You may not use any other unit during this action. Pay 2 move and fight an enemy token according to your level. If you defeat them, gain the indicated reward, otherwise you fail this quest. So up to level 4 it's brown and we get an advanced action. From 5 to 8 it's white and we get a spell, and from 9 to 10 it's a dragon and we get an artifact. So we could initiate it from this and then move 2 to again go here and fight. Interesting, but it's the quests, so we refreshed finally. So we have a lot of movement cards, and we only want to go here and then there, fight an enemy, get a spell, and then enter the ziggurat. Only the one way is blocked. And we need to get rid of Wolfhawk. So we play stamina with a blue die first. We already used Mana Search. That's 4 movement, so we can move to the wasteland. Then we use move 2 to reveal this tile, or any of those, depending on what we roll. So let's make it like this and use the rose die. Comes a blue, so it's this tile here. And we have to roll the rows again. Still blue, which doesn't mean from the regular orientation it's rotated once. And there's just a village glade and some orcs, which is still interesting because it can allow us to do the fork, for example, because there's a village at a coastal space now, which is really easy to achieve, and we can get an artifact there if we can take some beating. But I do think we are well prepared to take some beating with the skill, but I'm really looking forward to leveling. But finally we want to progress with the quest. So we interact here as an action for the turn, pay to influence, and so this is these two sideways cards. And then we place this token on an adventure site in the range of 2 revealed spaces, which is the ziggurat where Wolfhawk is currently standing at. We did not reveal any other options, unfortunately. Well, we could place it here, to be honest, but I think a desert with a ziggurat where we can do something is better than an already conquered altar in a forest at night. But this moves the shield here, and we will get another fame point at the end of the game. That's all these cards then, and we hold on to 2, 1 to move, and then 1 concentration that we can use with Quick Witted once we draw it. Let's reroll the die first. Comes up deplete as well, so we will reroll these in our turn, and we will draw a mana draw. That's also nice to repair the source. A promise. That's a bit late. We would have needed influence earlier. And a crystallize, so not that helpful with fighting. Actually, we should have put out a token, the face-up one. And since we are still level 3, it would be a gray one. So these are golems, unfortunately, so physical resistant. That's really bad. But I put them here because Wolfhawk is currently standing there. But these are the enemies we now need to fight. So the step 3 would now fight the enemy token on this card as your action. Actually, we should place it on the card. Okay, so we would need 10 attack, and range attack is useless. That sounds really bad, to be honest. We're still in the vicinity of the keep, so we can draw this if we want to. We should know what it's in the deck. Actually, we are going through the deck quite fast. There's only 4 cards left. So we do have the Tranquility, the Improvisation, the Threaten, and the Blood Ritual. But we still have to decide if we want to draw this card here. But I do think I want to have a chance at Improvisation. That would really help in getting more attack. So let's just draw. And it is Improvisation. It's really lucky. But I'm not sure luck is a word that I would use to describe how I have drawn this round. So maybe it's not that lucky. Let's move that here. And this was our second turn. So we are now moving to the second turn of the dummy. He gets a new objective, which is a red. So he wants to burn down a monastery or conquer a fortified site. I think the keep is the only fortified site that's left. It's lucky, so he's moving away. And he will not be hindered by this if there's an equally long path. So I do think this path here is just the closest one. It's a regular card, no shield yet. And there's no red in the source, so it's just 1 space. So Wolfhawk will just move into this direction. But we need to reveal more cards again. So white, that's good. And a red, so we get some time at least, but our deck is dwindling quite fast, which leads us to our third turn. This we did not draw yet. So there are a lot of options on what to do. I can go to the ziggurat and clear that before taking on the golems. Even take chill, for example, as a reward. Use lethal chill to kill it. Without leveling, the golems are too hard to kill. With leveling, we can get start resolve. But the other option is really to go to the village instead, because there are 2 quests that can be initiated in the village. The Mysterious Island because of the lake, and the Fork because it's a coastal village. This gives us an artifact. This currently would only give us an advanced action. So it's really this quest that we are interested in. Man can move there with 4 with a source die, blue. So Cora would move to the village. And to initiate, we would need to block 2 psychic damage, which would be nice with the promise, but we do have a threaten coming up. And we do need to be turn efficient. So if we are not battling the monster, which we could do, the alternative is to be time efficient and higher. And without a white mana, we can hire the herbalists. We could spend this crystal, of course, to pick up the guardsman. But we do want the flexibility of the herbalist. We can ready the crossbowman instead. We have access to green mana then and can ready units, and we keep the crystal. So we are picking them up for 3 in the village and hold on to these cards. So we are not starting this now, and we re-roll the die. Comes up depleted. We only draw 2 cards. We forgot about that. So we draw 1, which is the threaten. So this allows us to initiate the combat. And we do have the Tranquility and the Blood Ritual still in there. And I do think I just want to draw. So we are drawing the Tranquility, and the Quick Witted we can draw later. That's it for our third turn. So the dummy just reveals 3 cards because he still has an objective card where we now put a shield. First is white, that's nice. Second is blue, also nice. And the third is red, that's awesome. But the dummy will move 1 for a regular card, 1 for a shield, and 1 for the red die. So 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, towards the goal of taking the keep. Dummy's die comes up white, which means that we can play our 4th turn. Since we are not picking up a spell now, we will re-roll the black and the gold with Mana Search. And they come up black and gold. That's really funny or sad or both, but that's that. So what we do now is we play the Threaten for influence 2, to initiate the Eerie Fog, a village on the coastal space, block or prevent psychic damage 2 or assign damage from it as in combat. So we are now marking this here. Should be on the space, I guess. We finish another step, again of a quest that's marked as collective, so it's not my shield, but the neutral one. We should have rearranged the quest, by the way, so when we did a step here, this should have gone to the beginning of the queue, and now that we did this, it also jumps to the beginning of the queue, which I think nets us just moving them here and this one here. So we would not need to finish them this round, and they would still be available to us. So now that we are on the space with the Eerie Fog, we can do the second step of the quest, which is Spectral Monster. So we need to be on this space. Find a brown enemy token as your action. They may not be attacked or defeated, but will attack you, which just means we take the damage, and we can't use range and siege attack phase, which doesn't help in this step anyway. And then we place the top possessed enemy token, which is one of those, on the card and a token on top of it. It is now an Apocalypse possessed enemy. So we're moving that here and pull a brown token. And let's see what it is, what this monster out of the fog really is, the Spectral Monster. And it's a Manticore, and now I regret not hiring the Guardsman. So at this stage we just have to deal with the attack. So I do think I do not want to take wounds now, because there is a chance that the attack will be increased and will not make a difference if I'm taking it to the face again, which I must because it's Assassinate. So after initiating the quest, we now have to fight this without being able to kill it, and no range or siege attack phase, so we are producing a red token with the concentration, powering Improvisation, and use Shield Wall for block 2. Improvisation discarding Crystallize for block 5, increased by 1 block 6, so that's block 8, and block 8 blocks a swift enemy with an attack of 4. Which does mean we have now fulfilled this stage here, and we get another fulfilled quest, and now we are drawing this possessed enemy token, and it is an armor increase of 1. That's bad. Let's see. So this comes onto the quest, and the token is on top of this, and this indicates that we will get a faction token as a reward, which is also nice. So we also discard this, and that's our turn. This is the preparation for taking wounds next turn, and we will just draw these cards here. So that was our 4th turn. Dummy draws 3 cards. White again, nice. Green, and another green. So he will not exhaust his deck. There's another shield on the objective card, which does mean even though there's no red mana, it's still movement of 3. So 1, 2, 3 will mean this is discarded, and Wolfhawk has now conquered another keep, which does mean the shields are getting removed, and the objective card is now removed. I think this was here, and that's Wolfhawk's 4th turn, so we can play our 5th, and again we will reroll these because these are not helping currently, and they both come up green. That can be helpful. So we really want to finish this quest, which does mean we are getting attacked again for 2 wounds, because we only have an armor of 4, 2 to the discard pile because of poisonous, and 2 more wounds to the hand, which after the combat with the green source die and the tranquility will just heal. That takes care of the attack. We then use the herbalist to ready the crossbowmen and use them again for an attack of 3. We use our crystal with quick-witted for a range attack of 3 and a sideways card to reach 7, because we need 7 due to the possessed enemy token. That costs us the crystal. We are not getting a further wound, but also no further crystal, unfortunately. But it does kill this, which gives us 5 fame. So we're at 18 and level. We now did this step here. The monster reveals itself. Fight the Apocalypse possessed enemy on this card as your action this turn. If you defeat them, gain an artifact. So we are done with this quest, which is another step fulfilled. Let's reroll the die first. Stays green. We now get the combat rewards, which I believe is the artifact and then this faction token here. So there are 2 types of faction tokens with the expansion, and I believe we are getting one of the Apocalypse faction tokens. Since the enemy was Apocalypse possessed, I believe we do get an Apocalypse faction token. The other faction tokens are from the Council of the Void. And the token is a Ring of Shadows, which does mean from 1 enemy token you ignore all wounds. So we are just putting on the ring and vanish into the shadows, it seems. You both ignore the wounds and additional effects, but you also ignore all the fame gained and all reputation changes for the remainder of the combat. So it comes at a high cost, but it would also work on multiple attacks because you can really evade a full enemy token. So quite an interesting token, since we do have a lot of wounds already. Maybe there are some annoying tokens where you actually do not care much about the fame. But then again, you would not use this in a big assault because you would not gain any fame whatsoever, it seems. But it's the token we got from this. So let's look at the artifact. And it's a choice between the Banner of Fear. If attached to a unit, can cancel 1 enemy attack and giving me a fame. And if you break it, you can cancel the attack of up to 3 enemies. And the other artifact is the Shield of the Fallen King. So block 6 or 2 block 4 against different attacks. Or Cold Fire block 8 up to 3 Cold Fire block 4. So both defensive. So we are taking the shield, which we will draw then next turn, of course, not the banner, which means the quest is now completely done. And we do proceed to level up, which is a skill choice between the Tales of Conquest. The ability would be that once a turn when activating a unit, +1 to its attack or block of any type. Once this turn, you may remove 1 shield token from the skill to repeat this effect for the same or a different unit. So it just really gives +1 on any attack or block type, which is nice because of the crossbowman. And whenever I place my shield on the fortified side, that's the upper ability, I can place a shield here. So I can charge it, so to speak. So that's nice, that's improving my units. And the other skill choice is Improve Fate, so that's a cooperative skill of Coral. So this is a skill you flip once per round, draw a card. If you have the least fame, not tied, you may then discard a card and draw a card, which is costly because you're losing a card. Put a skill token in the center, any player may return it to you face down to draw a card. So essentially you are drawing a card, can replace one, and in the next turn you can draw another card. I do think I want to improve my units, so I'm taking this, so Tales of Conquest, which improves my units, and if I charge it, so to speak, I can even use it twice per turn, which leaves this for the offer. I'm then taking Stout Resolve, a very flexible card that can also help with wound management. The offer refreshes with Diplomacy, so an influence / blocking card. And Wolfhawk adds another skill, which is the other healing skill, which gives a white crystal. So let's remove this too. And we are done with our 6th turn, drawing the 2 new cards, so the Stout Resolve and the Shield of the Fallen Kings. And now Wolfhawk is playing, so the first card will be her objective for the last turn she plays, which is green. So she would like to conquer an adventure site, and unfortunately there is one, even in range 1. So I fear she will just take the altar now. So she will just conquer this, the objective card is discarded, and of course she would draw more cards. And there aren't that many left, so she will exhaust her deck. We were lucky that the blue ones, and especially the advanced one, were at the bottom of the deck. She would draw 2 more, but again the deck is exhausted, so we play our last turn. Actually this was her 5th turn, so also our 5th. We are playing our 6th now, and then we can even play a 7th if we want to stretch it out. But at the beginning of the turn I have to learn to not forget this. We will reveal a new quest, which is Ill Omens. First step is to feed the victims of famine. So a village, a city or a refugee camp, discard a card, get the 25.1 marker, which says in parentheses it allows you to ignore Swift. Then you stop the spread of the pestilence. At a keep or mage tower, pay heal 2, get the 25.2, ignore poison. Then defend the innocent from civil war, a village, a monastery or a city. Pay block 6, get a 25.3, ignore brutal. And then death needs a volunteer, any unconquered adventure site. Enter the adventure site. After this action, destroy one of your units. Get 25.4, ignore paralyze. And the beginning says a 25 marker, so any of the 4, may be discarded to ignore the indicated offensive ability on all enemies that turn, even those with arcane immunity. So arbitrary people can do arbitrary steps in a competitive or cooperative game to get these one-time bonuses to ignore Swift, Poison, Brutal or Paralyze on all enemies that turn even arcane immune. That's really nice, and it gets progressively more costly, so you start with a card, heal 2, block 6, and then even use a unit. But in essence, by losing a unit you can then later ignore Paralyze, by blocking you can later ignore Brutal, by healing you can later ignore Poison, so it's almost like you're prepaying this for later. So we could play 2 more turns, but we just pull a mana die to play Stout Resolve and discard a shield for 5 move. So we move 2 into the plains and 3 into the desert at night. So we are at the beginning of the next day in position to play the Ziggurat or finally get the Spell Thief quest done so we get our expose. But that's it then. Dummy announced end of round. We can't do anything, and that's the first night. We did level again, but we did not get that much fame, to be honest. We did pick up an artifact, but also 2 wounds. Of course, also the Stout Resolve from leveling, but that's pretty much it. So we really have to pick up the speed here. At least we did hire a second unit, even though it's just Herbalists. But with the skill here, we now have crossbowmen that have an attack or block 4 or range attack of 3 and can use them twice, basically. So I think that's still okay, but let's see how the next day goes. So as usual, we start with the dummy deck and we give him another blue crystal due to chill, but fortunately a red card. So the Decompose goes to the dummy deck. I also do want to get rid of the Mana Storm because I'm not picking that up, but if I'm not picking up Diplomacy, the dummy will then get a white card, unfortunately. And as discussed earlier, I do not want to use control of the offers for the spell display because the dummy could remove spells on his own. The advanced action offer refreshes with Blood Rage, so a much needed attack card, 9 attack, that's so good. And Firebolt is range attack as well, so it leans into the expose strategy. Spell Offer refreshes with Call to Arms, Call to Glory. That's nice. That could be solid, but we really have to get to the core tiles to even see elite units. Let's refresh our units. Unfortunately, we lost Sparring Power and Mana Surge because the dummy picked it, and we, of course, used Mana Surge to fix the source. Let's shuffle the dummy deck. We remove or refresh the unit offer. Still the silver units, of course. So the other swordsman. Red Cape Monks, so finally some elemental damage at least. The second peasants, unfortunately. And shock troops, that could be interesting. Guard Duty and a mysterious island are now removed, which does mean the Spell Thief is now at the end of the list again. But we will only reveal them in the first and second turn of us. The dummy will not reveal a quest. The source starts as white, white, green and red. And we finally shuffle our deck and then go to the second day. You have to remember to extract quick-witted. That should be enough. So let's see what our starting hand will be. A wound. Tempered Steel, that's good, some combat. A Swiftness, a Stamina. And at that point we already have to think about if we want to draw Quick-Witted, but I don't think another Swiftness will be a good idea. So let's just draw a fifth card, which is a Crystallize. As for the tactics, we still have access to Early Bird, Rethink, Planning and Great Start. So as far as tactic selection goes, we are going with Rethink, because we do have a first turn planned already. Tempered Steel with the red die and a crossbowman with Tales of Conquest will be 10 attack to kill the golems, and this will just block the golem. So it's really trivial and we will have access to expose then. But we do need to get rid of some of the cards here. So we are taking Rethink, get rid of the wound, the stamina because we are not moving anywhere, and Crystallize. I don't want to still draw the second Swiftness, so we will draw other cards instead, which is Threaten, that's bad, a March, that's really bad, and a Mana Draw. So that did not pay off, unfortunately. So our deck is reshuffled now, and we see what the dummy is picking. Maybe Early Bird is not the worst pick, because then we can take Planning over Great Start for a hand limit increase of 1 for the final day. And the dummy is picking up Great Start. So we are again before the dummy and start our first turn, which does mean revealing a quest. It's the Execution. So this quest has 3 options, so it's not 3 steps. You can either convince the Executioner to free the man by paying for influence in a village, keep, mage tower, or oasis. You will get a fame, a reputation, and a random crystal. Or you free the man by force, same sites, fight a grey enemy token as your action's turn. If you defeat them, fame 1, gain a random mana crystal. Or you offer to be the executioner where you just pay 1 attack, get a fame, and lose a reputation. So of course we will finish the quest first, so the Spell Thief, which means that we are engaging the golem now on the field, which is sitting on the space we're currently at, and just use the shield wall to block it. Then use a source die with Tempered Steel for an attack of 6, because the golem has a resistance. And the crossbowman with the Tales of Conquest now have an attack of 4, that's an attack of 10, inefficient, kills the golems. Which does give us 4 fame, so we are not leveling. We played only Tempered Steel, but since we now want to play the Cigarette, and these are not really helping, we are discarding them. That's a bit sad, but what can you do? So we're holding on to this. Rerolling the die, comes up green as well, but after the turn we get our combat rewards. So found you, prepare to die, fight an enemy token on this card as your action this turn. If you defeat them, gain a progress. So we have by now played 2 quests with 3 steps, I think, so 6, and gain the spell underneath this card. So it's expose, and the quest is now done. Let's make room for the next 2, and then we just draw cards, which is of course expose. And since we dropped cards, we can now decide if we want to draw Quick-Witted or a regular card. For the moment, since we are drawing up to 5, we just draw 1. That's almost perfect, I would think, to at least block 1 of the attacks. And I don't want to draw this, so let's draw 1 other card, which is a Tranquility that might be good to just heal a wound that we get from a trap. So that's our first turn, and the dummy will now play his first turn and draw the objective card, which is green. So again, adventure site. Let's first reveal more cards. Another green and another green. That's a bit bad. It's a quick turn, but he already played 3 of the 4 green cards he currently has. And this means 1. There is a green die, so you reroll this. Stays green, but it's 2 movement then, because it's a standard card still. And the next adventure site is the monster den in a range of 3. This is already conquered, and the Cigarette here is at range 4. Since it's the same range, I can decide where she will go. So I think she will just go to the hills here with movement 2. Which does mean next turn she will do the monster den, and it's that. And I think I should actually mark the spaces she conquered with a shield. It's obvious for the spaces that start with a token, but it's not obvious for the monster den where you would actually draw a token first. But she hasn't conquered it yet, so let's put it to the side. And that's her first turn, so brings us to our second turn. And I don't think there's anything to discuss here. We are just entering the Cigarette, so right away we are running into the first trap of the floor 1. So we are rolling 3 dice, which come up white, white, and green. So green is a poisonous attack of 3, physical, and white is a physical attack 3, which is swift. So that's the choice now. Swift 3 would just give us a wound, and poison 3, of course, is easier to block and would give us 2 wounds if not. We do have to block anyway, but we would need to spend another card, and I don't want to spend this, because if I spend this, I can just heal it as well. And the shield, I think, is far better spent for another trap or even the enemy. So I do think I'd just take the wound here from a 3 physical swift attacks, or from white, because I can heal it later. It makes me much more flexible. If I just discard this now, I don't get the wound, but I lose the flexibility. We can't stay on the floor because it's already marked by the dummy, so we are proceeding to floor 2, so another trap. Only 2 dice this time, which is white and black. So black is a physical attack 4, that's cumbersome and brutal, so it's easier to block because of the movement, but if you don't block it, it gets doubled, or at least the remainder. And white is still the physical attack 3 that's swift, which I do feel like I just take another wound, because I do want to have the option with these bad tokens. For example, if it's familiars, we can just block all the attacks just with the shield, so I don't see a reason currently to play this. So let's just take another wound. That's floor 2, so let's stay here and pull the enemy. Actually, I did completely forget that this enemy is possessed, so it's not a regular one, but we also have to draw a possessed token, but at least the +1 armor is already, at least one of them is already drawn. So let's see what we get here. So let's see the token first, and the sorcerers, of course, so I can't kill them that easily, but I can at least block them for now. And a possessed token, of course, gives them another armor, sure. And a psychic attack of 3. I just realized. +1 fame, that hardly sounds fair. Wow, okay, so that's bad. So the combination of the sorcerers with this +1 armor means that we need 7 damage to kill them. And since I do like the experience with these tokens, I did not notice there was yet another one, +1, and there could have been a +2, to be fair, so yeah. But it could have been neutral, which would have been fine, because then we could use the Shield of the Fallen Kings to block the attack, maybe get another wound, but still kill it. And with -1, we could actually have killed it at range. As it is, the 2 damage from the exposed don't do much, so we can just play the mana draw that we would need to pull another mana, sideways 2. So we have 4 damage from the sideways cards, 3 from the swiftness to come up with the 7 damage. And we do ignore all the wounds, all the effects, all the reputation gains or losses with this faction token that we then discard, of course. Unfortunately, we also ignore the fame, so we are not getting the 6 fame, but we do succeed with this fight. So that was costly, but at least we did it. The die comes up gold, that's good. We do retain these 2 wounds. We do mark the second space here with our token and remove the quest token, by the way. And the reward now is a spell, because we did floor 2, and now we need to think about what to get. Yeah, we need to get away from here, so we are taking Mist Form. And since we did not level, that's pretty much it for the turn, and we will just draw the Mist Form, of course. Yet another wound, and we are still not a hand limit of 6, of course, so this means that we need to decide this now. But I do think we just move here, and we could even kill this orc then, but we need the blue mana to get there, and from this time on we will have more mana. So you won't have 2 mana to actually kill this, so let's just draw. And it's a stamina actually, that's interesting, so more movement. But that's my second turn then, and I think I should have revealed a quest, because I revealed one making it 3 in the first turn, but then we solved the quest. And in the second turn, I guess I again forgot, so let's do that. It's a Noble Warrior, that's a personal quest. Take her with you, so in any inhabited site, basically a village, keep, city, refugee camp, oasis. But we would need a reputation of +1 or higher. Second is combat experience. If you defeat an enemy token this turn, add its fame value and your current level together. Place a mana token on this card according to the total. So it's either green, white, blue, or red, depending on if it's 4 or fewer or 15 or more. And then you have 2 options. Either return her to her home, gain a number of random mana tokens according to the mana token on this card. So it's random tokens, it's a lot of mana. And depending on how much fame the enemy was and how much of a level you have, it can be up to 4. Or you can recruit a unit of the indicated level for free. So it's either level 1 or 2, level 1 or 3, or level 1 to 4. And you do not get quest points from this if you recruit her. That's interesting, but I'm not noble enough to do that. That's my second turn. The dummy plays his second. So it's red, which again is bad. White, that's good. And a blue, of course. So 3 more cards, which is 2 more whites and 1 more blue. So I count that as lucky at least. After a short turn, he now has played a lot of cards, but a lot of bad cards as well. This should get a shield, but since the monster then is right behind the corner, she will just move there and conquer it. So I mark it with a shield and move her onto this. And this will then mean her quest card is fulfilled, and we move it back to the position of the first turn. That brings us to our third turn, and I do think it's clear that we need to get away from here. We could heal, of course, with 1 mana, but then we couldn't power this. So using the gold die while it's there, actually she would have rerolled the green. Let's do that first. She prefers it over gold. Comes up white, so it doesn't change a thing. So we need this for Mistform. Move 4, the move cost of all terrain, including lakes, is 2. We could play this as well for 6 movement, but it would only gain us 1 more space. And I do think we need to get back to a glade. And since 2 Fame will level us, I think we will just move there and take this glade. So we just move here. Movement cost of all terrain is 2, so the forest is just 2 as well. And we can't afford to toss any more cards, so we just leave it at this. 1 wound will be healed at the end of the turn through the glade. We'll start the next turn since it's day with a gold token. Die comes up red, Mistform is played. And I do think at that point we are drawing quick-witted to just kill the orc next turn. Although we can do that with the crossbowman, I'm just realizing. But I do think we just keep the units and play the card nevertheless. Let's draw it. And then the 5th card is Crystallize. So it's our 3rd turn. Dummy gets a new objective, which is blue, which means it's wild, but it cannot be closer to the portal than he currently is. And since he's at the edge of the map, and this is one of the equidistant lines, it's clear that he will reveal a tile. So we can already put that away because he can do that right away. Let's draw 2 more, which is red and white, which again is 2 more cards. So another red and another blue. There are only 4 cards left, so we have to avoid white and blue. But there's 1 white card and 1 blue card missing, so it's already a 50-50 again, if the dummy cuts this around short or not. But now we have to make space for her to explore, but I really like that she's exploring because we need to get going to the core units. So let's move these away. I think I forgot again to reveal the quest, so let's do that. It's the Admiring Bard, live music. So in a village, monastery, city, refugee camp, or oasis. So I think you can just pick him up, and then we have 3 options. The Exterminator, if you defeat a non-red, non-brown enemy token, you gain progress on the fame track for quests and place a green mana token on this. Monster Killer, if you defeat a brown, you get a blue mana. And if you defeat a red, it's Draconium Slayer, you get a red mana token. And then the finished song will then tell about your tales, I guess, and you have to drop him off at, again, the village, monastery, city, oasis, not refugee camp. You get a reputation, and then fame according to the mana token, which is 1, 2, or 3. So it's really not complicated, but it's also not that lucrative. Alright, so we had to rearrange the map a bit to make space for the next 4 tiles. What I think is quite nice is that there are 2 countryside tiles left, so if she reveals one here and I here, then we can actually explore core tiles in the center of the map, which is really good. And since she is adjacent to 2 tiles where she can explore, I think it's up to me, so I will let her explore this. And we have the choice between one of the new tiles and one of the old ones. And since this is darker, let's just say we take a mana die in on red, blue, and black. It's the new one. It actually comes up white, so she will explore this tile, and the other one I can explore later. Probably I want to have it there. So let's roll the rows again for the orientation. Comes up gold, so it stays as it is. And it's a tile with a lot of lakes, a mage tower of unknown defenders, orc trackers, and an altar. That's actually the altar with 10 fame for 4 mana. This might be good, because if she goes for fortified site or an adventure site, this is probably the closest. And she will then have to move through this because there's no shorter path, which means that she will stop here to remove them and then go further. But it was her blue. To go further away from the portal, she had to explore, which brings us to our 4th turn. So it will be a slower turn as well, but what can you do? We take the white die to use quick-witted with range attack 3. That kills these orcs, gives us a reputation, and 2 fame, which will actually level us finally. Let's already mark this, that we have our 3rd slot and hand number 6. Then we use the gold token from the glade to crystallize and get a green crystal. And we leave it at that, and one of the wounds is then healed from the glade. Die comes up black. But we will finally draw up to 6 cards. So there's Stout Resolve, interesting. Another Stamina, Improvisation, and a Concentration. So now we will see if the dummy gives us more turns or not. So what the coin flip is. First card is the objective, which is blue, that's good. Which does mean it's now a 2 in 3 chance. So let's reveal more cards. Red, that's bad, it's back to a coin flip unfortunately. And it's green. That's really good, it's really appreciated, it's not going well, and this at least gives us 1 more turn. So this is 1 movement, because it's blue, non-standard, there is no blue, but but it doesn't matter too much, I think, because it will mean the next thing, which is either an adventure site, fortified site, or he can hire, which is further away from the portal than he's currently at, which does mean he has to fight these orcs, and this ends his turn. And he will then probably conquer the Mage Tower. So this was the dummy's 4th turn, and we can play our 5th. We do start again with a gold token, and the goal should be to explore. So we're using a green die from the source to power concentration with stamina, since we do not have blue for 6 movement. This is not locked in yet. And we will move here for 3 and explore this for 2. Die comes up black, so it will be rotated 180 degrees. So this is the tile. It has a Mage Tower, a deep mine with red and green, an oasis and rampaging enemies. And the regular orientation is like this. So it will be rotated with the Mage Tower facing us. And since it's day, we'll see the defenders that these are hags. And there are orc summoners there. I do like this because this means that we can take another spell. And actually we should refresh the offer. Completely forgot about that. So there's an underground travel / attack, which can also circumvent fortifications. So with 1 movement point left, we now cast stamina to get 4 more move points, so 5 in total. With 2, we will reveal this, and with the another 3, we will enter the tower here in the hills. So to finally pick up some speed again. But first we need to agree on a tile here. So let's put tokens here. That's actually much easier than what I did before. And then roll for this. Comes up red. So it is not a city. That's clear. Which is good, since we then do not need to decide on the level. Rose comes up green. So it's rotated 2 clicks clockwise. And this is the new core tile, which has a pyramid, of course. Ruins and a village. That's pretty much it, and a lake in the center. So the pyramid is rotated towards us, and the ruins are actually a keep in a white enemy for an artifact and a spell, so that's huge. That might be exactly what we need for the 3rd day to catch up. I do like that there's a pyramid as well, but there's just wasteland here, so we can't move there now, and we don't want to. So we are assaulting the tower, lose a reputation. We then use Start Resolve with the wound for a block of 3. And with Shield Wall, it's actually a block of 5, even 6, because the Start Resolve would be improved. We then use, before the combat, of course, the Herbalist to ready the crossbowman, and then use Tales of Conquest to produce an attack 4. With the Cypress Improvisation, it's an attack of 5, killing the hags. Actually, these might be monks. Yeah, of course, these are monks. The hags are the green token. But nevertheless, we kill them. That's for fame. Gold token is gone. Skills are both used. We reroll the die. Comes up red. This was all played or discarded. We mark the tower with a shield and also mark our skill with a shield, so we can now use it twice per turn, at least once. And we do get a combat reward of the end of turn, which is a spell, and I do want the offering to finally build up some firepower, and a spell for refresh with meditation. So this concludes our 5th turn, and now we are drawing. We did speed up quite a lot actually, so let's see how many cards we actually have. So it's 7, so we do draw all but 1, which is the offering, of course. A wound, unfortunately. There's another one in the deck. A promise, it might be really good. We can't hire anything here, unfortunately, but maybe pick up another spell. A rage, doesn't do much. A march, and a determination. So this should be the blood ritual. Yeah, so we would have to play this in the last turn then. So this is our 5th turn. The dummy will stick with blue and exhaust his deck. He will accomplish his objective card, because he will get to the next objective that's further away from the portal than he is, which pretty much means the tower. So the dummy will take this tower and also kill monks. Interesting. So we can play our 6th turn and we will have a 7th. So we use the turn for an offering turn, take a red from the source to cast offering and discard these, which of course helps us in preparing a sacrifice with 2 red, 1 from offering, 1 from rage. A white, of course, if we want to do range attack. And blue is always good because we are lacking this currently. So this is all played. And we do have to draw a faction token because I forgot in the cigarette that we did not get any fame or reputation changes because of the Cloak of Shadows, but it does not prevent to get us a combat reward. So we get another of these Apocalypse faction tokens, which are the Boots of Charging. So they give move 2, and we have to use this to move into a rampaging enemy, so either Orc or Draconum, and it gets us +2 in the attack phase against this rampaging enemy. So this really makes us more mobile around rampaging enemies and helps with defeating them, but it's just not helping with sniping them at range. But that's it then for the 6th turn, and we will draw the remaining card, which is the Blood Ritual. Dummy in our end of round, and we are in our 7th turn. We still have to reroll the die. Comes up gold. So we use the red die for Blood Ritual, gain another wound, produce 3 mana tokens, which we do not actually use, but use 1 mana to pick up a crystal, so we do have another white. But that's that then. That's the end of the second day. As for the quest, the only reasonable thing would have been the execution because it's available in the Mage Tower. But we would have hold on to the promise and then use the March instead to get a green crystal. So we would have the promise left, which is exactly the 4 influence we need to then get a fame and reputation and a random mana crystal. But I do think with Expose and Mass Expose I really want to go for the higher value, so for white crystals and just plain range attack. So Rethink and Great Start are now gone. The dummy picks up a white crystal, so he now has 3 white, 3 blue, and unfortunately he's also picking up the Diplomacy, of course. So by now he has an extra white and an extra blue card and an extra crystal of both colors. And he picked up a red card in the beginning of the game. We ready our units. Blood Rage I do not want to remove, it's just so much attack that I really want to pick that up. There's a Crystal Mastery as a replacement. That's a really good combination with Sacrifice, of course. And as for the spells, we do have a Blizzard here. So just Siege, Ice Attack H, that's huge. That's something we might want to pick up, even though it's blue, so it will not profit from all the mana we get from the Sacrifice play. The 2 remaining silver units we get are Illusionists and a second Shock Troops, interesting. But we are of course far more interested in the elite units, which are the blue heroes with a huge block and the red heroes with a cold fire attack of 6. We do remove the Ill Omens and the Execution, and the new quest will only come out in my turn. And the initial source comes up as a white, blue, red and 1 depleted die. This brings us to our deck where we have Blood Ritual. That's really good to have for the assault. There are 3 wounds in total. We do have the Sacrifice, that's the MVP of course for any assault, together with Mass Expose. We do have Stout Resolve, that can also be some damage. Quick Witted you have to take out again. We do have the Mist form, Veil of Mist, that might be good to actually get away from the tower once we have hired. But it might also be good to cross the terrain if it's not the city tile to actually get to the first city. There's the Max Expose of course. Shield of the Fallen Kings, that would be nice to have, especially if there are elusive enemies in the city. Let's see what we get. So that should be enough. So we are drawing 5 cards again because we can draw Quick Witted if you want to. There's a Crystallize that can give us the last white crystal right away. Tempered Steel, it's a bit too early for this. Stout Resolve, okay, might be good. With a Wound, okay. That's a lot of influence if you want to. Threaten, so this is influence, that's really good. At that point I don't think I want to draw this yet. So I do think we just draw the 6th card, which is a Rage, okay. So there are too many options on what to do here. We do not have the best unit choices, unfortunately, but there is a Snowstorm, there are Illusionists. We can take them both, and after that we really need to get to the city, so we are taking Preparation. And from the deck, we will then take the Mist form. Expose and Mist form would have been the next 2, that's a bit sad, but what can you do? This stays out, but the Mist form we add to our hand. So we need to shuffle this, alright. Dummy will definitely go before us now, but let's see if he eliminates from the dusk or something else. And Dummy goes for Midnight Meditation. So on the final night we can either have a long night or go first. So finally Wolfhawk is before Coral, which does mean we start with her objective card, and it's red, which means that she wants to conquer a fortified site or burn down a monastery. These 2 are already conquered, even though that's mine, she will not go for this. The Mage Tower is also already conquered, we do not have monasteries, which I believe means she will now explore. And of course she can explore this tile, so I do think she will do this, and 1 movement point will be enough. But she will reroll the red, nevertheless. It does come up black, but I do think the objective is then fulfilled right away, and we see how many cards she plays. There's a green and a blue, which is 3 more cards, which is a green, a red, that's really bad, and another green, that's almost the worst case scenario. So 5 good cards gone, we hit a bad, 6 cards played, that's not good. The only saving grace is that the dummy will now reveal a tile, and there's a 2 in 3 chance it's actually a city, and it will be the lower level one, so the one I want to attack, which means I cannot really or should not really reveal here. And since there's a clear path and we just made a decision to pick up Mist form, we might be in a good position to actually just glide over there. So let's see what the dummy actually explores. So Wolfhawk goes here and then explores this tile. But of course we have to roll if it's a city at all. There comes up green, so it's this tile, which we of course know it's a city. So let's roll for the rows. It's black, so it will be rotated 180 degrees. And we will use the random city colors, because why not? I do not really like the constraint that each city has its own tile, because I don't think there's much theme to it or something like this. So it opens up a lot more combinations. So let's reveal this city space and rotate it 180 degrees. So it's the white city. That's the regular orientation. So this is the way it's placed. Let's roll for the city color. And it comes a blue. And besides the blue city, there is a fire dragon. There are spawning grounds and another keep because it's the white city tile. That should be good if we take that, because we will have a handling increase of 2 then for the actual assault. But it will cost resources. But then again, we do have this here, which might help. So it might be worth it to take it. But of course, the objective of Wolfhawk was discarded after she explored. So unless she draws red again, well, maybe blue might work as well. She will not go for the city. If she goes, she might remove a token for us. That's actually quite nice. So this went interesting and brings us to our first turn. Let's remove the rows here first. It's getting a bit crowded. And we do reveal one more quest, which is Under Siege, a personal quest. Other heroes may not enter your space while you have a shield token on this card. So the idea is that the mob means that if you take a keep or mage tower that you conquered, you draw a gray and a purple enemy and place them on this card, and then you have in the next turn either defend, where you get a bonus of block 5, and you of course ignore fortifications because it's your location, or you just leave it to the mob. So you have to do forced withdrawal, or just move, and you will remove the shield and the side is no longer yours and you fail the quest. So I think the idea is that you can get the fame from 2 tokens, and I actually aided in defeating them with this block 5, but otherwise it doesn't sound that attractive, because at the current stage of the game it would level me probably, but it would take more resources and just for fame, nothing else. So I'm not sure I want to do this, and I don't think it's an automatic, except that the next player who does conquer a fortified side automatically triggers this. So again, lots of options. But since we have the mist form now and the first city got revealed in a perfect position with a keep in front of it, I think we should go there, take the keep, have the hand limit increase, and then see what we can do from there. We anticipate that we might need a red crystal to power either of these cards, which would set us back to 2 pairs for sacrifice. Blood Ritual can get us any crystal if we power it, if not it's red, and we want to hold on to the crystallize. So this is why we then play Mistform with a blue source die, start resolve with our green crystal, tossing 1 wound and threaten, increasing the movement here to 7, which is movement 11. All terrain costs 2, but we cannot enter hills and mountains. So Coral will move 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 and assault to keep, and then we will try to kill them with shield wall and these abilities here. Let's see what token this is. This really matters a lot, of course. That would be our second keep. We are losing reputation first, and then see what the defenders are. And we are up against swordsmen. So overall, this attack, it comes down to preference. If we want to hold on to crystallize, hold on to crystals or not, or risk it to do this in any other way, or hold on to cards, or not use a unit. But we decide that we want the crystals and the crystallize, and rather spend one of the units, because we can always ready the other one with the herbalists. Which does mean we are using shield wall with rage for a block of 5 already, because it's increased by 1. And then 1 block point here, so it's 6. We are blocking them. We get 2 attack, but we need this unit anyway, and we could increase for free this by 1, so it doesn't matter at all. It's definitely dead. We get 4 fame. By this time we have then used our crystal, the die, played all of this, but not crystallize, played all of this. But we of course then conquer the keep, which increases our hand limit by 2, so up to 8 now. And we can tell another tale of conquest by putting another shield on this skill. You can only use it once per turn, with a shield I mean, so you can use the skill twice per turn by expanding a shield, but you cannot use it 3 times or something like this, unfortunately. But that's our first turn then. The die stays blue, that's awesome. Gives us options with crystallize. And we do draw up to 8 cards, so this is quite an important pull. And we also will see the defenders, by the way. But the second card is the Shield of the Fallen Kings. That's welcome. Concentration, nice, okay. A March, that's not as good, but we need 1 movement card to initiate. Another Stamina, so another movement card, I mean. Another March, that's not good. But then again, if you want to hire now, we can play these sideways. And a Determination, that's interesting. So that's 7. At that point, I think I just want to draw Quick-Witted to get the hiring over and draw this. So we have an influence 4, 5, 6, and then we can just pick up the shock troops. But let's see what the defenders are. We already laid it out while thinking. So it's the blue city that increases elemental attacks. And later it acts as a mage tower. And it's defended by 2 mage tower units and 3 white. Let's start with the hopefully easier ones. Fire mages without any physical resistance, but no, we can't kill them with sacrifice because it's red. Magic familiars which are never fortified, okay. Then Amotep gunners, which are not fire resistant and have no physical resistance as well. Alter mages, unfortunately, which are physical resistant. But then again, we have fire damage with the Sacrifice Blade, that might be good. And freezes, so finally another unit with fire resistant. So not the easiest tokens, but also not that bad actually, because there is potential to kill a lot at range. That's 14 of the 18. So with any other source of range attack, we might be able to kill this and then deal with these tokens in any other way. Or maybe these are actually blocked with the shield. Let's see. Let's put him away for a second and go to the second turn of the dummy. He does pull a new objective card, which is green, so there's no green die, that's good. And green means adventuring site. It seems like he never actually conquered the altar, that's interesting. So that's in range 2, that's range 3, that's good. So he's not moving towards me. This is already conquered, so I do think she's backtracking to this. And this is a regular card, no green die, no shield. So Wolfhawk will just go back to the Mage Tower, to her Mage Tower, to the next turn do this. So this stays here. There's a blue, at least that's good. But there's also a white, and it's the third card, so another 3. So blue, blue, and white. This somewhat offsets our bad luck from here, because these are all bad cards now. So it's literally the other way around. It's 5 bad, 1 good, but we did not hit the good. So it's not completely offsetting the first turn. And she has already played 12 cards now from a deck of, by now, 18 cards. So there's, actually it's 19 now, because she got 3 already from the first day, first night and the second day. So it's 7 left, which is really good because it means that she can't exhaust it in one go. And we are already at the city, so I'm not too worried currently, but we do still have to prepare. We haven't seen any of our important spells yet. But this brings us to our second turn. We do reveal another quest. By the way, Noble Warrior we can't start because we are not noble enough, but we would be in a keep now. The Bard, for some reason, does not reside in a keep, so we can't start this. And this, as I said, I could have started now, but I do not want to defend it or lose the keep. So the next quest is Stray. Good boy. There's a dog here waiting for something or someone. Any unconquered adventure site, so that would be the spawning grounds, for example. What is in there? You find some scraps of clothing with runes on them. The dog seems to recognize them. He whimpers. If you conquer the adventure site, you fulfill this quest. Come with me now. Pay to influence. Get 24 and flip it. The stray dog has a new keeper. Once around, you may flip for move 1, attack 1, block 1, or influence 1. That's so sweet. That's like peasants. So an extra unit, this gives you 1 move, 1 attack, 1 block, or influence. That's so cool. I love that quest. But there's nothing we can start now or want to start now, because we are really focused on the first assault. So the goal of this turn is to hire the shock troops, and we will do this with quick-witted and 4 cards sideways. 3 of them are movement cards, which we currently don't need. At least not until we have seen our key spells. There's only 1 pure movement card left, but we only need 1 to initiate the battle, and if nothing else we can play 2 cards sideways. And the detonation is something we can't hold on to if we also have the Shield of the Fallen Kings. That's far too costly. We might need some block for these tokens, because we probably can't kill all of them. Especially if you're not seeing all the spells, that would be really bad. Actually, without them both, it's probably useless to even attack. So yeah, this is gone. And we did not power this, because we can only pull 1 die from the source. And we want to have a white crystal, so we have the full complement of 3 red, 3 white. Displays everything except for concentration and the Shield of the Fallen Kings, 2 cards that we want to hold on to, and we just got the shock troops. So we reroll this, comes up black, and then we draw 6 more cards, so up to 8 again. Mana draw, that's an essential card for the black mana, and we can just pull it from the source by now. There's another movement card, Tranquility, not that helpful. There's the offering, so that's part of what we actually need. So we are currently at 6. There's a wound, okay. At that point we could even pull another wound, but then again we don't have green mana currently. And there's the Mass Expose. That's so good. Very nice. So that's 8, and this was our second turn. We are really speedy here. The dummy is 2, but first turn was Mist Form conquering the keep. Second is hiring, getting the crystals. So we are already almost done with preparation. That's so cool. But let's see what the dummy does. He gets a shield on his objective card, and we draw 3 cards. White, nice. White, very nice. And unfortunately still blue. So he will draw 3 more cards, but there will be 1 left, as we have already determined last turn. So there's another white, a red, and a red. So no green mana in the source, which means he has a movement of 2. And Wolfhawk will conquer this altar. Let's just use this shield here, and we will see what she does next then. So I believe this was from here, because we then hit white and have drawn 3 more cards. So draw 6, 6, 6 from a deck of 19. That's in 3 turns, almost all the cards. But nevertheless, we will have 3 turns now. So our third, then the fourth when the dummy exhausts the deck, and our 6th after calling end of round. And 3 turns I think is more than enough for us to take the first city. And just to point it out, if we take it, learn Snowstorm, we can actually kill the dragon. That's so cool. But taking would be a turn, learning the spell would be 1 turn, and then killing the dragon would be a turn. So we would have to take the city now, and we are not doing this. Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So let's play our 3rd turn. Alright, so we try to make it happen this turn already without grooming our deck further, because we already have the 2 spells, the concentration to initiate the mana draw we need for the black mana, and the Shield of the Kings, which is useful, as well as a card to initiate the battle. So there's only 2 cards that we really don't need, and we can spend another turn to heal, and we probably want to do that to draw 2 more, but we do have 5 in the deck, and there will be a Wound and a Promise, so if you draw these 2, that will be quite pointless. But there's also Blood Ritual and a Swiftness. It would be the most insane pull if you get these 2. And the last card in the deck is also an Improvisation, which, depending on how we shuffle things around, might be something that we play with a red mana and a shield to at least kill something and maybe just take more wounds. But it's risky, it might not improve the situation at all, but the combination of fire resistances, physical resistances, and elemental attacks and so on is really bad for us with the range fire attack 18. We are currently losing 4 if we are not using this, or we are losing 3 physical attack because we must make it inefficient against this token here. So yeah, in our 3rd turn we will just heal this wound, play the Tranquility, get rid of the wound. If we would toss this, we would need to play 2 cards sideways to move into the city. That's not a good idea. And this is really our card that allows us to take a lot of beating, so we also do not want to get rid of this. Which does mean we leave stuff prepared, but just draw 2 cards and see what it is. And the first card we draw is the Promise. That's really bad. That's not good. And the second card is the Blood Ritual. At least we got that. That frees up the concentration. But I do fear that doesn't do anything because we haven't anything to improve it with. So it's not that much better. But we did not use any dice. We just parked the black here and the dummy will not touch them anyway. So let's see what the last objective card of Wolfhawk is. And it's a red card. There are no red dice. She already rerolled them. But she is interested now in conquering a fortified site or burning down a monastery. So she will actually go to the blue city. But unfortunately for us, she's so far away. And she will announce the end of round as the next turn that it doesn't matter too much. She will just move back to her Mage Tower, because it's the only way to reach anything really. And that's that for the dummy. So we are back to planning with 2 different cards now. So no matter how we distribute things, we cannot kill all the tokens. And we really cannot kill 4, because the Blood Ritual means that we can use the mana draw and concentration for something else, but by themselves they don't do anything. So we are planning to use mana draw after all, which only frees up this, but we do have a green mana then to power this, but we are lacking the swiftness. And we can try one more time to get it by tossing the Promise now. Dummy will announce the end of round. But there's nothing else we can really toss, because the shield would be quite foolish if the swiftness is the last card in the deck and we are drawing 2, which would be a wound and improvisation, then that's really not good. So we are fishing for swiftness, and if we get either the swiftness or an improvisation, it will be better. Only if we draw the wound, then nothing will change. So let's see what we get here. And it is the improvisation. So that's a bit sad, and since this is the last turn, let's see what would have been. There's the swiftness and then the wound. Okay. So it's a bit sad that we do not get the swiftness. But I think with the improvisation we finally can kill 4 tokens. That has to be good enough. Alright, so we can kill 4 tokens and just leave the familiars, which are never fortified, and at least they do not benefit from the attack increase. So it's an easy token to then kill it the next day. So what we do is we use the stamina for move 2 to enter the blue city, which counts as an assault of course. So we lose a reputation. We then use the concentration to produce a red token. We mark this with a gold token, which of course is not really gold. And then we pull a regular black die from the source to cast Sacrifice with 3 pairs. There's another white, there's another red. So there's ranged fire attack 18. And we use 14 of this to kill these 2 tokens. We are wasting 4 then. But the problem is if we group another token with this, physical damage will be inefficient, and we do need to kill the altar mages, of course. So if we would try to kill the only token that does not have fire resistance, it would need another 3 damage, which would be 6 inefficient physical range attack. And since we did not draw the swiftness, that's one of the 2 cards left in the deck, we are just lacking the range attack. But it kills these 2, which is 15 fame, which makes us level up to 47, and we get 2 shields at the city. To make that work, of course, we would have to use mana draw to pull another black die, and one of the white tokens from Sacrifice from the crystals to cast Mass Expose, so all enemies lose all fortifications. Otherwise, we cannot use the range attack, of course, against these 2 tokens. But then we use the range attack 3 here, and our skill, Tales of Conquest, twice by discarding one of the shields to produce another range attack of 4 by using the Herbalist before the battle to ready the crossbowmen and then use them for range attack 4. So that's 7, which kills this token. That's another 7 fame, brings us to 54 and levels us again. And of course I used the wrong shields here. Of course Coral should have 3 shields here now, but it really leaves these 2 tokens here. We can use the Shield of the Fallen Kings for 2 blocks of 4, which just block the familiars. The Fire Mages will have an attack of 8 because the city increases it to 8 by 2. So we use the Shock Troops to reduce the attack to 5, which means we need to damage them first. Now it's an attack of 2, which then we assign to the Herbalists. So we are not taking any wounds. And then we are done through the block and assign damage phase. And we use one of the tokens to use Improvisation, discarding the Blood Ritual for an attack of 5, which kills the Fire Mages. This gives us another shield and another 5 fame, so we are not leveling again. But the only token that's surviving are the familiars, and we are retreating to our keep. Unfortunately, we did not use most of the mana, but we have used all of our cards, but it was our last turn anyway, because the dummy has announced the end of round. So we did not draw the wound, that's nice, but not the swiftness, that's sad. This guild still has a shield on it, and we reroll these dice, but it's also irrelevant. Let's clean up the dummy, by the way, because he already announced the end of round. But we do level twice. So we do get our 4th slot, and we now have an armor of 4, and we do level up. And the skill choice is between Combat Healer, which allows us to ignore any additional effects a wound on a unit would have, like Paralyze, Poison, Vampiric. And if there are none, we can ignore the wound on the unit instead. And we can flip this back by spending Heal 2, which is really good on really high level units with high armor, especially with resistances, because they can absorb large attacks, but they would be expensive to heal. So this can then net you like something like a heal 3 or even 4 on high level units. And the other skill choice is Tales of Adventure, so the companion skill to this, which gives you influence 2, or if there are shields there, once per turn, influence 4. And whenever you put a shield on adventure side, you also put a shield here. So this was for fortified sides, this is for adventure sides. So this is a little bit late, and we don't have high level units left, and it does not actually heal us, because I really need to get rid of this wound, so we can use this unit next day to heal this unit, and then we will be wounds free at least on units, and we can then replace the Herbalists, hopefully with something better. And influence is appreciated, but we did not have time to charge that yet. And since I do want to pick up Blood Rage, I do think I'd rather take one of the skills from Wolfhawk. And I am eyeing the Snowstorm, and then it would make sense to shoot for blue crystal to make an ice range attack with the next sacrifice. So I do think we are just taking this, putting these to the offer. We then have to take Blood Rage, and Wolfhawk will add another skill to the offer, which is Know Your Prey. Really nice. But that's it then for the second night. We almost took the first city, a level 11 blue city, but there's 1 token left. But I think it's easy enough to kill that with 2 units with range attack and with Tales of Conquest. It's already range attack 4, 5, 6, so they almost kill it on their own. The advanced action offer refreshes with Blood of the Ancients, but that's really the end of the night. So we are removing Midnight Meditation preparation from the game. We are readying the crossbowmen, the herbalists, and the shock troops. There's no skill to ready. Dummy picks up a green crystal, and I think we gave him a red card, but not a green yet. Yes, and we will pick up another red. So that went quite well, I think. And I do think I will drop the Crystal Mastery, so if I'm not picking up Blood of the Ancients, the dummy will pick up another red card. Yeah, let's do that. The advanced action offer refreshes with Mountain Lore and Into the Heat. And I do love Into the Heat. I already have 2 ranged attack units, that's huge, together with Mass Expose. And the spell offer refreshes with Restoration Rebirth. Let's shuffle the dummy deck. That should be enough. The 2 silver units are the Second Illusionists and Savage Monks. I love them, but there's no monastery, unfortunately. Now let's hope that the elite units will have some nice range attack. The first ones are Fire Mages. At least a range fire attack 3, that's nice. And if we go for a sacrifice with cold, that might be really good. But of course we can't hire them in the keep or the city. And the second is Ammo Tap Gunners, range fire attack 6, and we can hire them in the city and the keep. So this is insane. We also get rid of Noble Warrior, which we cannot take because we are just not noble enough. And the Admiring Bard because we could not start it in the keep. I would really love to pick up that dog. The saw starts with 2 red, a white and a black die. Fair enough. At least the white could allow us to cast the swiftness, and with Coral we have a guaranteed swiftness if we want to. So let's sort out the quick-witted, and let's have a quick look at the deck. So we just pick up the Blood Rage for raw damage. The offering, sacrifice, expose, mass expose, of course. So this we will use to stock up on crystals. The Blood Ritual, which for a second time we did not really use. The Mist Form and Veil of Mist. We did not use it now, but for the final assault it might get in handy. And for now it's a good movement skill. Stout Resolve, and we have a lot of wounds in the deck. Well, actually it's just 2 at the moment. But we can produce more, of course. But I feel like we should pick up Into the Heat and Snowstorm, and then I think we are prepared for some good assaults. So it should be enough. And we draw 7 cards, and then we decide if we want Quick Witted or draw our 8th because of the 2 keeps. There's a Blood Rage right away. An Expose, a Stamina, a Mana Draw, a Rage, a Stout Resolve with a Wound. So that's 7 cards. So we are taking Early Bird to not risk the dummy rerolling the white, which does mean the dummy goes with Planning. And Coral is again going before Wolfhawk. And this is our first turn then, in which we flip this to heal the Herbalists. We do get a blue crystal from this. We then use a mana draw. We did not use Quick Witted, so we draw another card, which is Tranquility. Wow. All right. We turn this black die green, using the white die, producing 2 green tokens. And now that we have drawn a Tranquility, we can just use this and put the other token on Stout Resolve. Tranquility will then heal the Shock Troops. Let's put it here and start our discard pile. So this will be set to the source, it will be re-rolled. But with the Stout Resolve, we now want to hire the Gunners. So that's already 5, and we need 9 because of the -1. So we toss the Rage and the Stamina, which is influence 9 -1, 8, so we hire the Gunners. They are available in the keep, and at some point we have to make more room here, so that should do. But it's pretty much all these cards then. And the Gunners are an awesome addition to our army, especially once we pick up Into the Heat. And that's pretty much our first turn then, so we reroll the die. Also comes up green, and then we draw up to 8 cards again. So a Crystallize, a Threaten, an Offering, a Stamina, so that's 6. A Concentration. Now the question is, do we draw Quick Witted or not? Yeah, I think we shouldn't do everything at the same time. So we are not drawing Quick Witted and draw another card, which is a Determination, which finally brings us to our first turn. So we can draw a quest. A Fistful of Crystals. Investigate this village. So we have to start in the village. Place 2 gray enemy tokens face up on discard. No hero may plunder this village while this quest is in the quest offer. Choose a side. Fight one of the gray enemy tokens on this card as your action this turn. If you defeat them, gain quest progress and gain a mana crystal of your choice. Fight the remaining gray enemy token on this card as your action this turn. If you defeat them, again quest progress and get 2 random mana crystals. So you're defeating 2 more gray units in the village for 3 crystals in total. Now that we have decided to not draw Quick Witted and draw Determination instead, we can finally finish the first turn of us. So the dummy now plays his first turn. We have to make a little bit of room for his objective card. Let's see if my fear was warranted that he would reroll a white die. No, he's playing red. Wow, this is really bad. I think he's sprinting for the city and killing my familiars. Wow, okay. So this is an advanced action, so it's 2 speed, and there is a red die. Actually, there's 2. One was in planning, so let's reroll this. Comes a blue, and red means that he's going for the closest yet unconquered fortified site, which is the city, and it is in reach of 3 spaces. So Wolfhawk will actually go to the blue city and kill the familiars. So now the city is conquered, and he also has a shield. It might not actually be the worst turn of events, to be honest, since I now can keep my Gunners to clear the altar and get an artifact and a spell much more easily. But I will not level, that's the problem, so I will not have Into the Heat. But first we have to reveal more cards, and since he finished his objective already, we can just put it here. And of course he's pulling a white, which does mean 3 more cards. Another red, another white at least, and another white. Okay, so all in all not the worst, but it's quite bad actually. We did not even pull a blue yet, and he has already played 6 cards. But it's the first turn of the dummy then, and we get to our second turn, which means revealing another quest. It's called Prove Yourself. When revealed, reveal cards from the regular units deck until you reveal a level 2 unit. Place the unit card underneath this quest card. Place any other unit cards revealed on the bottom of the regular units deck. Steps of this quest may only be completed if your reputation modifier is 0 or higher. In any inhabited site, discard a card or pay a mana, the Virtue of Generosity. Then, after defeating one or more enemies in combat, do not gain any fame for one of those enemies, the Virtue of Mercy. And then finally the Virtue of Courage, gain 4 or more fame from defeated enemies in one combat. Put the token with number 5 in your unit area as a command token and use it to recruit the level 2 unit that is underneath this quest card for free. You may not recruit a different unit using the 5 token in the future, I guess. Which is cool. It's kind of the unit version of my spell quest, the Spell Thief. So all you have to do is discard a card or pay a mana. I think that's fair enough. Then, after defeating an enemy, not gain its fame, which might be okay, for example, in the altar to do that with the gray. And then gain 4 or more fame from defeating enemies in one combat, which could be the same one, actually, because there's a white token as well. And we would get the unit. Let's see what the unit is. And the first unit I pull is actually crossbowmen. So they are level 2. That's insane. That's good. I do like that. So this might be a quest I want to take on. We are running out of space here, so let's put these faction tokens away. So let's just make it 2 rows here, with this being the newest and this being the oldest quest. We pledge our allegiance to any we deem worthy. Cool quest, interesting. We can also try to pick up the dog at the adventure site. I think I have to get rid of this draw pile as well, because now it's really time to think about our second turn now that Wolfhawk just captured the city for us. So since the dummy has taken the city, we don't need to go back there, but we do want to repair reputation, to then take on the quest Prove Yourself to pick up these crossbowmen, which means that we are paying to enter the city as well. So this is neutral ground and can hold more than 1 hero, but we will provoke the dragon. We will then use concentration to produce a white token to cast Expose. Target enemy loses all fortification and resistances. So now the fire dragon just has 7 armor and we already have a range attack of 2. We increase it to 3 with the shock troops, then buy another 2 to 5 with the crossbowmen, but their attack gets increased by 1. So now we are at 6. And Tales of Conquest on either of those will give us the 7th range attack point that we need. That kills the fire dragon. We get 2 reputation. We also get 8 fame. So now we are at 67 and we'll level again. And then we will start the quest Prove Yourself, since we are now at a reputation modifier of 0 or higher, and we are in an inhabited site. So we discard a card or pay a mana, and we are discarding the Blood Rage. The quest shows different shield colors, which just means that the progress is independent for each player, and they can all progress at the same time. If it would be a personal quest, it would block all the other players from progressing. And if it's collective, then everyone is progressing collectively the quest, and the one who finishes it gets the last step reward. Which does mean we are indicating our progress with this and get a quest point. And now we just have to defeat 2 enemy tokens, one where we decline the fame, one where we get a lot of fame, and then we can get the unit. We also pull a blue die to crystallize it into a white crystal to prepare for another sacrifice. In the other cards we really want to hold on to, we are already pulling 5 more cards. So we are rerolling this die. Comes up red as well. Let's put Quick-Witted here and draw 4 more cards first. As a city leader we will have a hand limit decrease of 2, but we are also in a range of the keep, which would also be 2. So 2 reasons to draw up to 8. So there's a promise, that's nice, because we do want white crystals. This we want to use for the Stray quest to pick up the dog. Improvisation. Shield of the Fallen Kings. Actually we have to stop here, because we forgot to level and we will get a card. So let's see what the skill choice is first. And the first skill choice is Coordinated Attack. So it counts as 1 attack against an enemy token, and all other attacks that you play against the same enemy token are increased by 1 if they have a different value than any other attack you have played so far. And +1 you already played by using the skill, so sideways cards will not be increased. And you can only attack 1 token with this, so you can't build a stack. The other skill choice is Desperate Measures, which allows you to play a card sideways for 2 instead of 1. If you flip it for 3, and if you discard a card, you can unflip this skill. But the card you discard has to be random. That's the sad part about it, but it can be a wound. So if you time that correctly, you can actually get rid of a wound. Yeah, so we want to leave Blood of the Ancients for the dummy, so we can't take one of Wolfhawk's skills, and we do pick up Into the Heat, which we will then draw, of course. That was what prompted me to halt my drawing. So that's 7 cards now, and we have to decide if we want to draw this or the next one here. And from these 2, then, we will use the flexible skill here that we can play sideways cards for 2 once per turn, or even 3 if we flip this. And in some corner cases we might even use this to randomly discard a card. If you only have 1 and it's a wound, that might be good to unflip this. So this goes to the offer. We get another skill of Wolfhawk to the offer, which is Hawk Eyes, so a movement skill that makes it easier at night to reveal new tiles, and you can reveal them at higher distance at day. The advanced action offer refreshes with training, and now we just have to decide if we want to pull this card. So we finally decided to not pick up Quick-Witted, to maybe draw it when we go to the altar for the range attack. So we just draw our 8th card, which is a Blood Ritual. Okay, that might change things a bit, or maybe not, maybe just hold on to it. But this is our second turn then, also going to the city, fighting the dragon, picking up a quest, and now we again have to make room for the dummy. Let's see what she is up to. So it's a blue card and it's a special one, that's sad, which already gives her 2 movement, but there at least is no blue die. Let's put it back for a second. But it's still 2, and she will do whatever she likes, whatever is closest. So either adventuring, conquering, or interacting. But she has to move further away from the portal. So this lake here is the edge of the hexagon, which does mean all of this is the same range from the portal. So what the city is on is pretty much, with the altar being at the edge, all at the same distance from the portal. That's actually quite interesting because it blocks her from almost the entire map, except for the oasis, the deep mine, and the orcs. But the orcs are never an objective, as is the mine, so it could be the oasis for hiring. But then again, there is a mage tower where she can actually hire a unit. So I do think Wolfhawk will go to the mage tower because it's further away from the portal than she currently is. To verify that, let's look for the closest way to the mage tower. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the closest way to the city is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So she can hire in a tower, and the tower does have the fire mages and the illusionists. So Wolfhawk will leave the city and go for the tower with a speed of 2. We are lucky that she didn't have a blue die, so she will keep the objective. And I like that she's out of the question now and moving away a bit from all the action. So let's reveal more cards. Another blue, that's good. And a green, which is 1 crystal, so 1 more card, which is another green. So overall a little bit slower, I like it, which allows us to play our third turn. So with the blood ritual, we changed the plans a little bit. So we pull a red die to power this and produce 3 tokens. One is a green that we crystallize right away with the advanced effect. One is blue and one is red. For the red, we cast Offering, which gives us the red crystal. And then we toss the Promise, the Shield of the Fallen Kings for white, and a blue card for 2 more white crystals and a blue, which means we have the full complement of crystals now. This gets rid of all these cards. We also cast this, of course, and got a wound from this. It's the only downside. But now we use our 4 shields with a neutral reputation and use Improvisation, tossing the Threaten for 3. That's 7 influence. And with the blue token we created, we pick up the Snowstorm spell. This leaves us with Into the Heat. This we didn't draw yet. And that's the turn. So we reroll the die. It comes up black, unfortunately. And then we again draw cards. But let's first refresh the offer. So there's Charm or Possess, which I do love. If you play high-level cities, this can be awesome. It prevents an attack and gives you a good attack. That might be the spell we pick up in the ruins because it's white, so we can cast it with sacrifice. So let's put Quick Related here again and draw 5 cards first. We are munching through our deck, so I hope we can reach the altar and do this. So there's a Snowstorm, of course. We just learned that. There's a March, movement is good. There's the Mist form, that's insanely good. There's a Swiftness, it would be range attack, and a Tempered Steel. Okay, so the question remains, do we want to pull Quick Witted or another card? So let's just draw and keep Quick Witted for the last turn. So it is a wound, okay. So that might change things again, but it was our 3rd turn to do a good Offering, play and learn Snowstorm. Now the dummy will play. We reveal 3 cards, red, green, it's not a good start. Blue, okay. So 3 more cards. Red, red, and another blue. So we are really hitting these bad cards, surrounded by good cards. But nevertheless, there's still cards in the deck. We went first. Our deck is almost exhausted, so I don't think it's a big problem. Wolfhawk will follow her mission. So she will go to the tower and then hire the unit with the least influence value. So that's the illusionist, which are available in the tower. So this card went in here because we have drawn the green as a 3rd and then 1 more card. And that's her 3rd turn, so we can play our 4th. So we finally need to get going, and we don't have blue in the source, so we are using a blue crystal to cast Mist form. This gives us movement 4, and we use March for 6. And the move cost of all terrain is 2, but we cannot enter hills or mountains. But we then leave the city for the wasteland, the plains, and the swamp to go to this altar here. And before we enter this, we definitely want to use the herbalist to ready the shock troops, because we really might need the firepower. Also, we start Good Boy, any unconquered adventure site. So we put this on these ruins. This gives us another adventuring point, and we mark this with a generic shield. For this quest, we now have to conquer it, and for this quest, we have to deny the fame of 1 token. But I do think we are prepared now. We will spend a lot of crystals, unfortunately, but we do have fire, cold, and physical, range attack. We have Into the Heat. We do have Tales of Conquest. So I hope this works out. So we're just entering this now and drawing the tokens. And the keep enemy is Red Heroes. I think that's an insanely good pull because it's low armor, no physical resistance. And the white token is Never Fortified Grim Legionnaires. They really have a high armor value and they're arcane immune, but I don't think it matters, to be honest. So we can defeat them easily by using Into the Heat, which increases the attack of our units by 2. And the shock troops will then have a range attack of 3. With Tales of Conquest, it will be 4, killing the heroes. This increases the attack of the gunners by 1 and Into the Heat by an additional 2, so that's already 9. So with the Source die and another Tales of Conquest, they are at 10 and they are just gunning down the Grim Legionnaires. We unfortunately then lost our shield here for the final battle. I think it's worth it because we now have killed both tokens. We unfortunately lose a reputation and we do ignore the fame value from the heroes to progress with Prove Yourself and the Virtue of Mercy. After defeating one or more enemies in combat, do not gain any fame for one of these enemies. This gives us another questing point. And then we get the 8 fame from the Grim Legionnaires, so that's 75. So by denying the fame we did not level, unfortunately. I think it's worth it. The Virtue of Courage now means gain 4 or more fame from defeating enemies in one combat. We just got 8. So we now get this token as a command slot, and we do recruit the Crossbowmen, which I do absolutely love. So that's 1 more unit for Into the Heat. You may not recruit a different unit using this command slot, of course. This gives us another questing point, and Prove Yourself is now done. But also, if you conquer the adventure site, so this refreshes to the top position, we now get a questing point. So the dog whimpers because he, I think, finds out that his owner was killed here. But we can now pay 2 influence to get the token 24, which is this one, which gives us the ability to flip 4+1 of movement, attack, block, or influence, which gives us another questing point. This would fulfill this quest, but of course we still have to come up with the influence. We must not forget this. It's not for free, but I do think at that point we are just playing this card here sideways with the Desperate Measures, so it's 2 influence. And just by this we have Crossbowman and a dog. That's so cool. The wounds we can't handle currently. Snowstorm we did not use, and Swiftness we probably just use for movement now. But that's the turn. Now we get the combat rewards, which is an artifact and a spell. Let's look at the artifact first, which is the Sword of Justice or the Banner of Command. But again, I'm leaning far too heavily into this, and this can get me something like the Fire Mages or the Savage Monks. So I'm taking this. I think I'm just picking up Charm. The spell offer refreshes with Fireball, Firestorm. Very nice. If we could also pick that up somehow. But that's really that. We did not level up, but we did 2 quests. And I think we just draw now. Unfortunately, we do not have a high land limit, I just realized. So we do have 4 cards left. And we do know that this is Charm and this is the artifact. So the banner. So this will be the March. Which doesn't mean we're not even drawing it. Which makes me think I want to just go to the village and heal the 2 wounds with Charm. So I'm drawing that. So with the Swiftness we can move to the village. With Charm we can produce Influence 4. We need 2 more to heal the 2 wounds. We can then also get a crystal. But it would be interesting to explore first. So to have another movement card. Because we are moving away from this tile here and this can already be a core tile. And if there's something interesting we might change plans and just kill them with Snowstorm. So the question is, do I rather have the banner or this? And I think I would rather have this. So I'm just drawing this now. So it concludes our 4th turn where we clear the altar. And the dummy will pick up a final objective card. He will follow once, which is blue again. We should have rerolled our die. Just depletes to black, unfortunately. But the dummy will then most likely exhaust his deck. So that's the 2nd card, white. And the 3rd, which is white too. So unless this is red, yeah, that was a rage. He would have exhausted his deck anyway. So after this, he will be done with objectives anyway, because he will announce the end of round. And blue means going further away from the portal. And I think at that point, since the Mage Tower is already this line here, I think there is even, yeah, there's nothing currently. Well, yeah, the Deep Mine and the Orc. So I think he would like to explore, but he can't explore here. And there's water, so he will go for the keep. And a regular blue card without a die, anything is just 1 space, so she will just make her first step towards the end game basically. But it's her 4th turn, so she really burned through her deck with 6, 5, 5, 4. That's 20 cards. And we have 2 turns now, and I think we will start by exploring, just with the worse Swiftness, 2 movement, to put this tile here, because then we can still move to the village, cast this, play this sideways to heal the wounds. So let's see what we end up with. So that's enough space for these 2 tiles where core tiles can be placed. But I should have revealed a quest at the beginning of my turn, since there are 2 slots open now, which is the Mine of Doom. Investigate the mine, enter the crystal mine as your action this turn. Fight the enemy indicated depending on the color of mana crystal the mine produces. If the mine can produce more than 1, choose one of the colors and the enemy gets +1 to all their attacks. if you defeat all the enemies, gain an artifact. Whether you defeat them or not, discard all the enemies' tokens. So for blue, it's 2 Mage Tower units, which are both possessed. Green, it's 3 green, which are all possessed. Red is a dragon, which is possessed, and white is a keep and a white enemy token, which are both possessed. So you can get an artifact and a mine with this, interesting. But that's the quest. So let's finally reveal this. We already paid for this. And it can be either a city or the other new core tile of the expansion. So let's just say the brighter colors, gold, white and green, are the city, and we roll blue, so it's not a city, but it's the other new expansion core tile, which finally has a monastery. Interesting. An oasis, a pyramid, a mountain and a dragon. Let's put a rose here for a second and roll. So it's rotated twice. So the oasis is facing me and the monastery was also rotated away. So the monastery allows me to learn Swiftbolt, but it is in swampland, so even getting there would already cost me 8 movement. There's a fire dragon in the center, a mountain, and again a pyramid and an oasis. So all in all, not that eventful. And we know that the final city will be here now, which is good, which is a megalopolis, as we said. So I do think I will use Quick-Witted now to move to the village, then use a white crystal, which I then recoup with charm, and desperate measures will give me another 2 influence, so that's influence 6, which heals me the 2 wounds in the village. But that's pretty much it then. I did not use a source die, of course. The dummy calls the end of round. So I will draw the banner and the march. There will be another quest revealed, which is a very personal quest. So it's obviously a personal quest. Any inhabited site, your reputation modifier must be 0 or higher. We are not in the center, but we are still at 0 or higher. Interact here as your action is turned. Choose a unit in the unit offer that is recruitable and recruit it for free. Place 12 on it. The unit may not be used or assign damage except during step 2 of this quest. If the unit is disbanded or destroyed, you fail this quest. If this quest is discarded, disband the unit. The rescue, Unconquered Mage Tower. Assault the Mage Towers as your action is turned. The unit with 12 on it must be used and or assign damage during this assault. If you conquer the Mage Tower and the unit was not destroyed, finish the quest and remove 12 from the unit. So you can get a unit, but unless you use it in the rescue of a Mage Tower, you will not be able to use it. And once this is done, this restriction is lifted. This is quite interesting, but we don't have a Mage Tower to do this with. So this brings us to our last turn. So with the last remaining 2 cards, we can't do that much. We have a unit still and a banner, and we still can use desperate measures with the banner, of course. But we first pull a source die to produce 4 movement points, reveal the city and see if we want to get in any kind of position. So it's the blue city tile with yet another monastery and a draconum, and this tile will now be with the megalopolis, but we still have to roll for orientation. Die comes up red, so it's rotated twice. So from this orientation, the regular one, it will be rotated away. The monastery would allow us to learn regeneration, and there is an ice dragon barring our way to the megalopolis. And now we have to roll for the colors. Let's get rid of the rose. And after rolling a few times for illegal options, we now have red and green as the cities. And as we said, it's a megalopolis of level 22. So the units will be poisonous and brutal if they have physical attacks. And let's see what tokens we actually have to draw. Let's put the blue city here and make some room here. So we are drawing 6 white tokens in total, 3 dungeon enemies and 1 Mage Tower. That might be fun. So that's a stack of 6 white, there's a stack of 3 dungeons and a Mage Tower unit. So this will be quite interesting. But just to point it out, of course, it's extremely lucky to not pull a white city. There was just a 1 in 3 chance that would happen, because then we would have to deal with the armor being increased by 1, so that's 10 armor more that we have to defeat. Instead, we get a lot of improvements for the physical attacks because the blue city was already pulled, which does mean most likely the dungeon enemies will have physical attacks, the Mage Tower unit most likely not, and I think for those it's probably a wash, I don't know. But if we get mass expose with Into the Heat, I think we are quite well prepared. Yeah, so we have 2 movement points left. This can get us up to 3 because it will unflip anyway, which is more than enough to go to the keep here. We can even move back to the dragon with this, or help in moving into the space at night. But I think I'll leave it at that. So that's the end of the 3rd day. We have taken the first city, prepared, have a good army. Let's see if we have a shot at this megalopolis. The day tactics are now all removed. We did also still have the dog, I must not forget this. So we did not use this. Would be another movement point, which could bring us back to the city. But again, it's also easy enough to move there. So I think I want to stay where I am. So the army is ready. Skills flip. This also gives us the last blue crystal. That's nice. Dummy picks up another green crystal, as well as a red card, the Blood of the Ancients. So this worked out quite well. Let's already shuffle his deck. That should do it. I'm not sure if it makes a difference if we remove Mountain Lore now. Let's get rid of it. Advanced actions refresh with Ice Bolt and Temporal Portal. Something I personally really like, because it increases your hand limit and gives you free movement. But it's unlikely that we can actually pick up an action card, because we did not pick up the Blood of the Ancients. And the spell offer refreshes with Whirlwind. The Monastery advanced actions are Heroic Tale and Learning. So not as good as the options that we just removed. And I do think it's far too late for Learning. That might be something to pick up if we can also hire there. If we move there at all. Let's put it here because we are running out of space. These are two good options, but maybe there are even better ones, so we replace the units. The two silver units are Magic Familiars and Scouts. These are actually quite good with Into the Heat and Shock Troops. They already have a siege attack of 5. But let's see what the gold units are. The first one are Catapults. Now that's something, and we are standing right where we need to be to hire them. That's an insanely good unit for what we are going to do. And the other gold unit is Fire Golems. So one more range attack than the mages, but it costs mana. That's a sad thing. But the good thing is we can hire them here too. The initial source contains black, red, green and white, so no blue. And I think what's left is to mix our deck. No, we have to remove 2 quests, which is a Fistful of Crystals and Under Siege. So let's move them down. This would allow us to hire a unit if we take a mage tower then, which we do not intend to do. And this requires a mine. But let's have a quick look at the deck. So the banner will be welcome to hire one of them into a separate slot. And then maybe we just replace another unit, so we can pick them up both here. So I'm glad that we did not break this, because it can mean that we have 2 more units, even without the extra slot. By replacing the herbalists, of course, which do not have range attack. There's a Blood Rage. Not sure this is the most important with our current strategy. Blood Ritual, of course. The Sacrifice. The Shield, also not the most important. Into the Heat. Mistform. I almost like to see to just move there, but we'll see. Mass Expose, one of the key things. Possess, Charm. Charm might actually be good to just draw early, to just hire and stock up on another crystal maybe, or even make hiring easier. And then we have the Blizzard, of course, that would be good. And there's still a wound in the deck that we did not heal. But overall, I'm quite happy with the deck. So let's give this a really good shuffle. So our deck consists of 28 cards. It might be interesting to know. We actually have to pull out the Quick Witted again. That's also quite a plus that we can keep that until the very end. Let's have it here like as a reminder. So it's 27 now. We are drawing 8. And depending on how much we keep, it might be good or not as good to prepare for this assault. And just to check, in the Monastery we can hire the Scouts or the Familiars, but not the Fire Golems or the Catapults. And I think the Catapults are the MVP here. So I'd really like to see the banner quite early to just pick them up. Maybe even together with the Charm. But it should really be enough. So let's pull the first 7 cards, because we are standing on the keep. We have 2 and in the vicinity of our city. And I just realized that if we attack from here or from the keep itself, we actually do have the hand limit increase for the attack. But it would be really good to also get the natural hand limit of 7. So we are already at 9, because we do not have motivation or anything. But let's see. First card is a Snowstorm. That's maybe not the best pull to start with, because I would like to have that for the city. The Offering and Sacrifice. I'm not complaining about that, but it can mean that we can't cycle through that many cards. The Shield, okay. Into the Heat, okay. Now it's getting ridiculous. We are also getting exposed, and we don't need to groom it any further. And there's Mass Expose. Okay, now that's extremely lucky. But that's the way with games that are based on luck of draw. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you're not. I take it as a win, because this really means that we do not need to groom that much. But it's 5 cards already. So there's a Stout Resolve and a Banner. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. I don't think we want to pull Quick Witted here. Let's see what we pull. And there's a Tranquility. And since we do not have wounds yet and only one in the deck, this might be a card that we want to toss actually. For example, with Stout Resolve, that would already be 5 influence. Not pulling the White City, and this insane starting hand is just so good. But I do feel like in this game I had some really bad luck with the token pulls and the possessed enemies. Both were increasing the armor. So I think you can't say that I had too much luck, especially in the beginning where snowballing is still an issue. Yeah, let's not think about this too much. Let's just go first. Which does mean Coral is still going before Wolfhawk. I think we had this order except for 1 round only. Which does bring us to our first turn. And this means we are revealing another quest, which is the Misadventure. The relatives need a hero. A village within 2 revealed spaces or a dungeon or tomb. Your reputation modifier must be +1 or higher, which I can't satisfy. Oh, it has to be a village within 2 revealed spaces of a dungeon or tomb. Okay, well that's actually not the case, so I can't even take that. But you would have to enter the dungeon or tomb as your action. If you defeat the enemy, you gain quest progress, gain a normal rewards, and get 27 and flip it. It may be discarded to get 1 mana token of any color. So you're essentially getting a wildcard mana token that you can use whenever you like. It's nice, but that's that, so we can plan our first turn. So it's our first turn. We will pull a green die to then Power Stout Resolve, discarding Tranquility, which is 5 influence. With the banner of command, it's 9. And we do toss the shield, unfortunately, but we cannot justify holding on to this with all these cards. And we pick up the catapults in a keep. And we do use this as our next command slot. So we are really running out of space here. So I think I just mark it like this. Or maybe we just keep stacking units, since these are the same anyway. Let's just mark it like this, that we have 2 crossbowmen. And then we have the catapults under the banner. The 4 cards we want to keep. But it's really our first turn, and so we reroll the die. Comes up black as well. And the dummy plays his first turn. And his objective is red, which is conquering a fortified site or burning down a monastery. So I do believe these two are the same distance for the dummy. So I could have him burn down a monastery. Or we could have him reveal the tokens, of course, and remove one. So that might actually also be good. But he does reroll red, also into black. Now this is not that good that the source is running dry so quickly, which makes him move twice. Since it's a regular card, there's no shield on it. And I do believe he will probably just move to the city then, because he can walk around me later and it wouldn't make a difference. But then again, if it's the same distance... Yes, so he has to circumvent me to get there. And let's double check that there's no other fortified sites that are not conquered yet. But I think it's really the 2 monasteries that can be burned down, and there's the city. And for all of this, he has to bypass me. So this is probably the space he's moving towards. And I don't think it makes a difference if he's moving here. So I'm moving him 2 spaces to here. I don't see a reason to move him to the city if it can be avoided, because if I'm moving away, he's now 1 space further away. But we reveal more cards, which is green. That's a bit sad. And a red, which is even worse. Actually, no. It does mean he's only playing 3 cards. So I take what I get. These are all nice cards, although green is already 2 crystals too. So it's really just red that's still good. And we revealed already 2 of them. But I think it's fine. Might even be lucky. So that's Dummy's first turn, and we are back to our second turn. So we reveal another quest, which is the Traveling Merchant. When revealed, roll a mana die and place a matching mana token on this quest card. So let's do that. Comes up as blue. So we place a blue mana token on this quest card. Any safe space plus the token 22. Once this turn, discard a mana crystal of the same color as the mana token on this card. If gold, any color. If the mana token on this card is black, you must pay 3 influence instead. Gain either a mana crystal of your choice, except the color of a mana token on this card, or the top faction token from any faction token draw pile being used in this game. Place the 22 marker on a safe space that is 3 revealed spaces away from your figure. Discard a mana token on this card and place a new mana token on this card by rolling a mana die as shown above. You get quest progress, but this does not complete this quest. A hero with their shield token on this step may complete this step again on a later turn, but they do not gain another quest progress. So it's really a Traveling Merchant that allows you to trade in crystals for other crystals or for faction tokens. And currently the trader is looking for blue. So it's probably nothing that we will engage with. And I forgot to draw cards, so let's do that. I should have drawn at least 3 until we have to decide if we want to draw quick-witted. So there's a March, there's a Mist Form. I think that's good to have, so we know we can get back easily. There's the Blood Ritual. I think that solves a lot of our mana issues, because we can initiate with red and we don't need it for the sacrifice. That's the point. So we are drawing this. This ends our second turn. The dummy player now plays his second, which does mean placing a shield on his objective. Drawing cards. That's good. That's also good. And a green, which is okay. It's 2 more, which is blue, nice. And a red. That's a bit sad, but it's an advanced action card. And he will move 2 spaces, because he does need to move around me. And this brings us to our third turn. And we want to use the white die for influence 4. The March we want to use with Desperate Measures for influence 3. And we use our dog for another influence point, that's 8. And we are picking up the Fire Golems. At that point, since we did not have our last slot, we do have to replace something, which are the Herbalists, of course, then. We lose the green mana, but we can't use it now. So I do think we just replace them. Although we do have a problem with red mana, just to point that out as well. But let's see if we can make it work. We can't move away in the same turn, so that's it. We've played 2 cards. And we do no longer need to think about quick-witted at least. So we reroll the white die. It stays white. And we do draw 2 cards currently. which is tempered steel, not that interesting, and an improvisation. The dummy player picks up another shield, and we reveal cards, so it's red, blue, and red. That's a short turn, nice. But he will move 3, there's no red mana. And the thing is, to reach the city, she actually must provoke the dragon. So she's moving 1 and 2 and killing the dragon in the process. But it stops her movement. But she does reveal the city defenders, I think, because she counts as a player. But I'm not 100% on this, and since we are not attacking right now, I think it's not that important. Which brings us to our 4th turn, in which we definitely want to get rid of these 2 cards. So it's movement 3, and we move to the village, and that's pretty much it. Idea being that we replace 2 more cards and can then plunder, and then later initiate battle with this. So let's draw 2 cards. It's a threaten, not good, and a stamina. That might be good to move us in, depending if the cards that we plunder are the ones we want. But it's our 4th turn, so the dummy plays again. So he gets another shield, not that it matters at that point. And we draw cards, so white, green, and red, which is another short turn. I can't really complain about luck at that point. That's really good. But what does she do now? She can either burn down the monastery or take a bite out of the city. And I do think I just want to have her reveal everything, kill a token. She will then bump out to this space again, which does mean it's not a safe space if I have to retreat later, but I can move through her, I think, because I think it's competitive rules. I can block her, but not the other way around. Seems a bit unfair, but I think that's the way I currently understand it. But I do think taking 1 token out and revealing everything to me is worth it to me. I don't need to defeat 10, and she's probably removing one of the dungeon enemies or even the mage tower unit. Which does mean she will do that. And this was her first objective card at the beginning of the round. It's really lucky that it's 3, 3, 3 and 1 times 5. But she will move in now and bounce back. But this will reveal everything. So let's start with the more harmless stuff, which are familiars. They are annoying. So if she would remove them, I would be happy. It's 5 fame. Dungeon enemy. There's a mantic core with 5 fame. Also a target she could remove. Has 1 less armor, but a fire resistance, so might make a difference. But there's a 4 fame token, which is a minotaur. So she will remove this and not one of the other 2. And the other minotaur. I think it's fair to say that they should have more fame. Let's act on that. And if we are really mistaken, there's something for 4 fame in there, then we can remedy this. Let's make some space and let's see what these white tokens are. So there are double fortified, but it's using all fortifications with mass expose, so that's not an issue. Cool. Then there are freezers, the other ones. There are guardians, autumn guardians, but they are not arcane immunes. They will lose all fortifications, but they will retain all resistances. That's the problem. Delphana masters, very nice, because they are not physical resistant. Then the other gunners and guardians again. So this is really ugly because they are really annoying to kill. Yeah, but we removed one of the minotaurs, so that was the least fame. And that's it for the dummy turn then. That was his 4th turn, so we can play our 5th. And between the turns we will of course plunder, which costs us a reputation but makes us draw 2 more cards, which is a crystallize and a rage. Which is a bit sad because we only have white in the source. So crystallizing the source die doesn't do anything. Let's pick these cards up because we want to keep none of them. Which does mean we draw 2 cards because we are still in the vicinity of the keep. There's another stamina and a swiftness. Now the dummy plays and gets a new objective, which is white. So interaction. And I do think she will just move to the monastery because I don't want her to take my keep. And I think if there are options, she never decides to go into rampaging enemies or take keeps like this. And she will then take away the least fame value, which is the scouts. It also means that she rerolls the white die, and it funnily enough stays white. Could have been worse, could have been better. And we reveal more cards, which is a green and another red. Okay, so this is really funny, but I'm getting close to the end of the game. So there's 4 cards left unless she's revealing another red, which seems impossible. There are all the starting cards, 2 other cards. Yeah, it seems pretty much impossible. She will exhaust the deck with her next turn, so we now have 3 turns left. So let's plunder, which gives us a reputation minus and 2 more cards, which is the mana draw, so that's huge, and another march, that's not so huge. But I do think that's it. We really have to get going. There are some cards in the deck, of course, but we have such a good hand. We have both our mana cards, so let's do that. So just to verify, there's no more red cards in here, so the dummy will exhaust no matter what we draw, which doesn't mean I will get rid of the dummy deck to make more space. And we have 3 turns, and hopefully the dummy will not have another turn. So I do think we figured it out. We can kill everything in one go. due to the dummy doing his work and removing one token, that was actually quite important because it really ends up to the last point of damage. So let's go through this. First of all, we start the turn by using a red crystal on Blood Ritual once we are still on the village. So this is our red crystal that we had. We get a wound, but we immediately flip this to heal it because we are not in combat, and we do get our last blue crystal with this. So this is now flipped, and we do get the last blue crystal. At that point, we would have played the Blood Ritual, and we have to decide on 3 colors, which can be non-standard. Let's put the crystals here for a moment. I marked this with gold because I can then later decide what it is. Of course, I could not change the color after information is revealed, but fortunately there is no need for this in this combat. Which does mean I'm using a blue, so I can use Mist form with movement 4. All movement cost of terrain is 2. I can even go through lakes. I cannot enter hills or mountains. But movement 4 is enough to actually enter the green city, which counts as an assault. But then I have played Mist form as well, and we are now in the city assault. With a regular black die and one of the tokens, because I used the red crystal for Blood Ritual, I need a red to actually initiate the sacrifice. So we have used one of our source dice and another token from the Blood Ritual. This casts Sacrifice with 3 blue, the last one we just got, and 3 white crystals. That's a ranged ice attack of 18. And since the armor is not modified and these tokens are not ice resistant, we can kill 13 and 5 is 18 worth of tokens with this. So that's the offering. We would have this as well, but we didn't use it. We can now use the white and the blue mana. So we put one on mana draw to take another die and turn it to any color we want. And we actually turn it to red. So that was a black die, but we turned it red. This is where we get these 2 tokens. So we've used one of the whites from the sacrifice and turned the die red. Let's make another discard pile here. And of course, we had to do this out of order again. So we would have to use from Blood Sacrifice as black and a white from the sacrifice play to also cast Mass Expose, so we can actually target enemies with ranged attack. And this is the same interaction that of course you have to produce this first if you want to power this with this. And I think it's legal to do that. That's a single attack because it's a single effect. That's true from ruling. So it's 1 ranged ice attack 18. But we can assign it to a stack even though it's not legal at the time. But the order is of course important because of the white mana from the sacrifice. So I do think it's legal to first cast the sacrifice and then the mass expose and then kill the enemies. But that would take the last token of the Blood Ritual and one of the sacrifice to mass expose everything. This was already necessary for this, but now we get another ranged attack 3. We also cast with a red token from Mana Draw, which is also in a causal chain after sacrifice, the Into the Heat. So all our units get +3 to their attack, but we can't assign damage to units. So at that point, we are activating the shock troops as a first unit. So all our other units also get +1. So all the others get actually +4 to their attacks. They have a range attack of 1 with 3 from Into the Heat. That's 4. Tales of Conquest, that's 5. With Mass Exposed, that's 8, which is exactly the Delphana Masters because they are not physical resistant. So at that point, we just need to know that we can target everything at range because enemies lose all fortifications this combat or all resistance. But of course, we use all fortifications, which does mean all these units that are double fortified still lose all fortifications. So these are just 2 reminders here. This unit is now used. We can then activate the Gunners to produce a ranged fire attack of 6, which is increased to 10 by shock troops and Into the Heat. So we are already at 10. And then we also cast a swiftness with one of the tokens from the sacrifice for another 3. This is all fire or physical, and they are not physical resistant, nor fire resistant. That's 13 now, so it's another 6 and 7, and they are all dead. So we played this now. We then activate one of our crossbowmen, let's say those we got from the quest, for a range attack of 6, which just kills the catapults. They are not physical resistant. And now the only annoying tokens are these 2. So with 2 tokens from the sacrifice, 2 blue, we can get a Siege Ice attack of 5, which is increased to 9, and a Snowstorm, which is not a 5, it's 14, inefficient 7, so it does kill them at range. Again, they are not fortified, even though they would be double fortified. This, of course, also uses this unit. I would have to flip the banner on top of that, but let's not do that for the moment. So that's the range and siege attack phase, and all of this is actually played. And the only effect that's still relevant is Into the Heat. I think for now we get rid of all these tokens. This was turned red, so it stays red, and this we would have to reroll later. But this is now all played, which does mean we have to block or assign damage. And at that point, I am trying, if this is not ruled out by someone else, to flip this back by discarding a random card. And it doesn't matter at all what it is, so I'm just discarding one. Should be random, but I don't care. This flips it back, and now we can use this sideways as desperate measured, so that's block 2. And with our shield wall, which gives block 2, this also increases this block 2 to 3, that's block 5, which blocks the Autumn Guardians. So let's also get rid of this. Let's get this back, this is our dog. So finally, to retaliate, we activate the Fire Golems. We don't have a mana for this, for an attack of 3 plus 4 is 7. And the other crossbowmen also for an attack of 7, which is a 14 physical attack, which is inefficient 7, which also kills this token. And by this, we have just defeated a Megalopolis of level 22, with the only token that was taken care of was one of the Minotaurs from the dummy, but we did not have 5 more damage, so that would really have sucked to have that in there. But then again, why not have the dummy help? It's a bit more competitive in this sense. I'm quite happy how this turned out, to be honest. I hope I didn't screw anything up, not in the battle and not before that. I will see that in the review. But I think we just take the fame now. So this is 8877, that's 30, brings us to 105, so we level twice. So 9 and 7 is another 16. We need 15 to reach the end of the board. So we are now at 121. And another 14 from these tokens, which brings us back to 15. And of course we would place 9 shields on the city. And of course the dummy should have 1 shield as well, because she did defeat a token. We did miss to place that. Which does mean we get our last slot with a hand limit of 7. And we do level again. Let's reroll a die first. Comes up white. So we did use a black source here, not a white. We turned this red, and this was the other black that we just rerolled. Maybe let's mark this after all that we used the unit. And we have a look at the last 2 skills of Coral. And the first skill choice is Treasure Hunter, which does mean whenever you pick from artifacts, you have 1 more artifact to choose from. And whenever you gain a spell or an artifact, you get a crystal. For spells, it's the matching color. For artifacts, you actually choose. So this is an interesting skill, but of course it depends on you getting spells and artifacts. As you've seen in this game, I've gotten 1 artifact, no, actually 2. And I like something like 4 spells, so if you get that early, that can be a lot of mana. And you have more choices, which would have been nice, because I got the shield, which I think in all fairness we used it once, but tossed it twice or so at least. So I'd rather have seen something else. But the mana is really interesting, because it really scales with how much you snowball. That sounds a bit broken, but I think it's really not, because it does have to compete with other mana skills that usually give you like a crystal and a mana, 2 mana of very flexible colors, or a mana and a heal. So I do think if you're not getting 2 of them per round, you're almost falling behind. And how many artifacts and spells are you really planning to get? So even if I have something like 6 now, and I would have had the skill from the beginning, which doesn't help acquiring them, by the way, it might not still be the best, but I do like it. I think it's balanced from how I understand it right now. And the final Coral skill that we haven't seen yet is If It's Not Broken, and I think I love that skill. Once a turn, 1 card played sideways gives you the basic effect of an action card of the same color you have already played this turn. If you play an artifact sideways, you may choose the color. Which pretty much means that if you are playing a Rage sideways, for example, you can get the Threaten effect, or vice versa. Or you can play a March sideways to get a heal, or play a Tranquility sideways to get the March effect, or the mana effect of a concentration. So this really makes you quite versatile, and you can essentially copy another card. And with the advanced action cards, that's even more interesting, because if you play Stamina sideways and have Ice Bolt played, then you can even get 2 blue crystals. And you could even play it for range ice attack, powering it, and get a crystal back by playing something sideways. So this is really interesting. Yeah, let's just go to Treasure Hunter and see if we can get any artifacts. Wolfhawk is revealing another skill, but at that point it doesn't matter, of course. So what card do we pick? And I do think we just pick the Ice Bolt. Advanced action offer refreshes with agility. And now we draw. But now we have a hand limit of 7, and since we are city leader, we again have +2, so we are at 9. Let's see how many cards we actually have left in the deck. So it's 7. There's the Ice Bolt. There's a Wound, so we would have something to heal actually. There's a Charm. Cool. There's the Blood Rage, a bit too late. A Concentration, okay. A Promise, that might be nice to pick up more artifacts. And a Determination. Dummy does not play a turn, and we can play our final turn of the game after already winning. But I do think I would just cast this, get a crystal, get a blue crystal from this, get 1 from this, so at least we end up with 3 pairs. So we would be at 11. Then why not flip this? So we are at 14. Then we can produce a token to power this, and we would be at 18, which is an artifact and an advanced action. So we are just picking 1 up. Let's draw for fun. Let's ritual attack. We won't draw it anyway. And then we have a choice out of 3 artifacts, which is the Druidic Staff, Banner of Fortitude, Banner of Courage. So we are picking up the Druidic Staff, and we do get another crystal. So overall we got blue and 2 arbitrary ones, which can't be gold, of course, because there are no gold crystals. But since it doesn't matter, I'm just marking this as wildcard crystals. But that's it then. That was the final turn. We do end up with the wound that we could not heal because we are not getting all that stuff to use it right away. And there's currently no way to heal in this city. Very nice. So what we have seen here in this game is all the new tiles. So you can see this one here with the dual mine, oasis, keep, and a ziggurat. Another tile with a mountain in the middle, ziggurat, rampaging orcs, a glade, and a village. Then the third tile also having an oasis, the other deep mine, an orc, and a mage tower. So a little bit of everything. So there's one more village, one more keep, one more mage tower, two more mines, two ziggurat, and two oasis. And the core tiles then have the two pyramids, another oasis, a monastery that we are still lacking, another village, an altar, and also Draconum space. Then we've also seen coral with all the new skills. We went for block that might not have been the best choice in the world, but I'm not sure what the alternative was. I think it was the movement skill that would have let us move at coastline. I think that's probably a really good skill I should have taken. Desperate measures, a sideways skill. This we only got at the end, of course. This was really nice because it allowed us to increase the damage of units by 1. And we can use that twice if we have conquered a fortified site, which we just have. So, of course, this would have been refreshed. The two new cards, the quick-witted makes it a little bit more brain-burny. So in my usual manner, when I have a tactic selection, for example, I have to think through my first full turn to see what tactic I actually have to take. So before I can even take a tactic, I have to do that. And quick-witted introduces another element like this, that I have to think through my whole turn before I can decide what to draw. This really confused me at times that I thought I was already in my second turn, but I was really just drawing up cards before the dummy made his turn. And the other card, which is the rage replacement, I think is interesting because if powered it can give you a 6 attack or 6 block. So that's quick-witted, that's tempered steel. And having the odd amount of attack or block I always like, and if powered again it can be 6 attack, which helped us even against physically resistant enemies, and it's really cool against enemies that are not actually physical resistant but have some resistances. And having block 4 as an option is always welcome. And block 6 against swiftness falls down to 3, but then it's better than nothing. But it's coral. Then we have seen the ziggurat and the pyramid, but we only went for one ziggurat. I think it's a very nice addition in the sense that it's like a maze, but you are not paying up front. In a maze, you're just paying the movement, and there's almost no gain in not paying more movement to get something better because what you have to do is the same. This is not like this in a ziggurat where you have to endure more traps and you don't know what traps this will be, and you only face the enemy at the end and it will still be possessed, so there's a lot more gambling involved. The possessed enemies then will give you a faction token, it's true. So I do think it prefers the lower levels a bit than compared to a maze. For a maze it's more a question of can you come up with more movement or not, because the movement won't help you in the battle anyway. But it will take cards. If you have to play 2 or 3 cards to even get up to 6 movement to get the artifact, you might not have any cards left to play. And here it's similar with the traps. Unless you're just taking the damage, that's something you cannot do in a maze. So if you're prepared to heal, which makes something like restoration maybe even better, then you can just undo all the traps and then try to kill the enemy at the end. But you can't use units in a maze, at least you can use one unit. I think they are quite well designed actually. The oasis is interesting with the bonus of moving away, but I'm not sure I visited one. This was really out of position. I think I did not want to go there, and this was just a tile that I didn't visit at all. But this might come in handy, and that you have more places to recruit village units is also welcome, and that you can buy crystals for influence really makes these influence skills much better. I haven't taken one, but if you have 2 per turn anyway, it's just 2 to pick up a crystal, and it might be really interesting, especially if you're playing with something like sacrifice. And finally, what we have also seen is the questing system, and I have to say I absolutely adore this, having played it once. From the example quest we have seen from the unboxing, I think it was already clear that these quests do not just hand out stuff to people who happen to be in the right circumstance and get lucky. You do not just get stuff for stuff you're doing anyway. You always have to pay something extra. Be it mana, be it cards, be it actions, be it influence, block up psychic attack. For example, I did get an artifact, and these quests make it really flexible where to get this stuff, but I had to be attacked by a brown enemy twice, the second time even being possessed, and can't kill it in range. And if you compare that to a regular dungeon where you can just kill it at range, with a concentrated swiftness you are lucky and then you have an artifact, I think it's fair to say that this is not overpowered. And I think the same goes for all the other quests. So this is always something that comes on top that you can do instead. It will cost resources, and in this sense, as I said in the beginning, I don't think they are limiting the options. I think they're expanding them, because they are not just making an old option better so that another option falls away, but really it's an alternative, or it makes another option even more expensive. And this is really something you have to weigh off. But I do like the general idea. They seem quite balanced to me. again, you always have to do something. I can't speak to the competitive aspect, of course. More often than not, if you are working on a quest like this, someone else can continue this. But if you are placing the marker down where you are, then no one else can do this unless you have PvP enabled. But what I love is that this makes the map even more dynamic, because suddenly spaces around the lake that are safe, or villages at a coastline, or mines, they all become suddenly an additional site where you can do something, which did mean that I could actually spend some time here on this, that I went to the ziggurat to fulfill a quest, went to the ziggurat, then went back to get an artifact in this village at the coastline, which normally would not be in a place I would actually go. This opens up me healing there or hiring something, for example, as well, which usually, again, I would not do because it's out of position. So far, I have to say I really like this. I did not read you all the flavor text. That might be an indicator that I am not that fond of making Mage Knight into some story game. I did not want and I did not expect, and it didn't turn out like this, that Mage Knight will suddenly be a campaign story-driven game. So I think both the campaign and the quests should do what they seem to do to really tie into this generic fantasy sandbox and gaming system and really neatly tie into this balancing-wise. And from what I see here, the quests really fit in quite well. I haven't tried the campaign yet, of course, but I did think I start with a common scenario that I know, but use the new hero, the new tiles, the questing system, and of course the active dummy, which we haven't talked about. And again, I'm quite positively surprised how well this actually worked. It makes an awful lot of sense that the dummy will always go for either an adventuring side, to conquer something or burn down a monastery, or interact, which are the three big categories which also appear in scoring, I think, and which separates all these interesting spots here nicely. So it's competing for units and spells. Spells didn't came into play that much because we only had 2 towers. I'm not sure if I realized that interaction could also mean that he's learning a spell, which did mean I adjusted my control over the offers variant. But I do love this, and blue being a wild card but then forcing the dummy to go away from the portal is, I think, genius. I screwed this up in the beginning that I think I made him higher twice with blue. If he draws white, I think it's fair game because he doesn't have to move somewhere else. So if he just draws white and white and white and it's already on his side, he can hire if the unit's actually available there. But for blue, it doesn't work. It would have needed to move away. But I think it made the game maybe even harder for me. I don't know. It would have been a completely different dynamic. But it's my first game with this, so yeah. And I do like the idea that it's actually speeding up if the target is far away, because it can happen, I think, with a large map and that he has to cross the map if there's only one place to hire, for example. And with adding shields, it's actually quadratic build-up, so he will move maybe 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, depending on also if it's an advanced action card or one of the 2 special cards in the deck. So this gives us a little bit of a chance to start with 2 instead of 1, which skips a full turn. So instead of 1, 2, 3, you have 2, 3, 4. And it's also a way to reroll the mana, which in a competitive game, of course, will also happen, which I think overall is just very nicely done, well thought through, and I do like it a lot. This really changes the game, because the dummy can take stuff away from you, but it can also help you by revealing. So yeah, I do like it a lot. But these were the 4 things. So coral, the tiles, the quests, and the active dummy. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will of course play the new scenarios as well, but maybe not the easy ones, the introductory ones. I'm not that fond of diving into stuff like this. This is also why I gravitated towards just doing a solo conquest. I did want to play Volkar's Return again on Legendary Thrilling, but I did not think it was a good idea to combine this with all that new stuff. So this is why I went to a regular scenario. The city levels turned out quite well with 1122. That's a sum of 33. And I'm not sure how large I actually went already. The 1214 was a sum of 26. Yeah, I did play a 1418 double Megalopolis, but it turns out to be 32. So technically with 33 I'm even more advanced now. But I think it's hard to compare this really. As said, when I chose the level 11, going for 5 harder tokens instead of, for example, 8 weaker ones is a decision I made while doing the game. So with the cards I had and no scaling, I thought I rather went for 5 individual tokens. But for the level 22 Megalopolis, it doesn't make a difference, of course, because it's both 10 tokens and hard ones. So I think I can be quite happy. It turned out that Into the Heat, Sacrifice, and Mass Expose worked like a charm. And Into the Heat is a scaling skill, because with 5 units, that's already 15 range attack if you use them all for range, which I did not do. But nevertheless, that's for 1 card, that's insane. And if you can kill everything at range, then you don't even need to assign damage to your units, so it's not that much of a downside. Alright, but it really concludes this game. I hope it serves you as an introduction to some of the content of the expansion. And let me be clear with this. If this would be all, I would still love this expansion. But there's more scenarios. There's the campaign mode. There are more faction tokens. We have seen only 2 so far. As usual, there are 12 faction tokens, 2 always being the same, so 6 different ones. We have seen 2 only. We have not used this. As said, I think in the beginning it might be useful to speed you up with all these rampaging enemies, but I do not like or love that you have to defeat them in melee. Otherwise you just get a movement, and movement 2 maybe is not the biggest deal in the world. Alright, so let's calculate the score. So that's my starting deck. I managed to not break an artifact, so I actually have 3. I did end up with 5 spells, 1 wound, and 6 advanced actions. We got 5 from level up and bought 1 in the city. Let's remove the city card here. And as usual, we are getting 10 per conquered city, 15 if all were conquered, so that's 35. We are bumping up to 50. We do not have unplayed rounds, of course, but 4 cards in the dummy deck and end of round was not announced, so we get another 9 points from the dummy. Then the spells net me 10, so 5 times 2, and 6 advanced actions, that's 16, so we are up to 75. Then we do have 3 artifacts, that's 6, and 2 pairs of crystals, that's another 2, that's 8. We do have quite an army, 4, 7, 9, 12, 15, so we had 98. We did not burn down a monastery, we have 2 keeps and 1 mage tower, so that's 6 points, 104 in total. And we did conquer this altar, as well as this, that's 2. Also 1 cigarette, that's 3. But I think that's it from the adventuring sides. Wolfhawk was really busy with all that stuff here, so we just get 6 points. We lose 2 from the wound, but we do get the 12 points from the questing, where you just get 1 per fulfilled step of a quest, and the leader would get 3, but we are not doing leaders, even though the active dummy would qualify in competing, actually. I think it might actually win some categories, but I do think we are not doing this in solo. So we just get these 12 points. So we are through the board 2 times, which nets us 240 points. All right, but I think that's really it. Let me know what you think about this new content, and if you think it's unbalanced or overpowered, or what you think of Coral. And as always, please let me know if I screwed anything up. I will review this myself, of course, and I hope I didn't do too badly. I can say that I screwed up my thinking card quite badly, so this will be more work for me, because with the quests and all that stuff, with the quick-witted to decide this, with the active dummy, there's a lot more to keep track of, so it makes it a bit more fiddly. So this is why I would not recommend this to new players right away. But for veterans, this is really more fun stuff. And I think the quests with the active dummy really change how the game is played. But that's it. That was Solo Conquest with Coral 11 2020 Megalopolis. I'm really happy that I could do that. Let's hope it stands up for the review. And as always, see you in the next game.